Good morning, everybody. As y'all are checking in, what am I doing here? It's the wrong one. I'm adding a connection there for YouTube. I'm changing my link on TikTok for YouTube. As y'all are coming in, you can shout yourselves out. Tell me where you are checking in from. And we're going to get started in one moment. I'm just trying to put a new link here on YouTube because I'm streaming on a different YouTube channel, but I think I'm getting the same problem that I was getting before. But we will see in one moment. YouTube's been giving me the same issue with the streams, giving me a streaming issue every single time. We might just have to drop the YouTube live because it keeps giving me the same issue. Let me see. I think it's this one. I'm trying to connect to the right YouTube channel. This keeps and continue. All right. Let me see if it allows me to do this. I don't know if this is even the right link. I can't even tell. So let me see. Two more. Let me click on that and let's see where it goes. Does it go to the right channel or not? Actually, yes, it did. All right, so we got that working. So if you're watching on TikTok, I just changed the link in my YouTube channel, the YouTube link in my TikTok profile, because we're going to publish to a different YouTube channel. So if you have ever followed me on YouTube or you didn't follow me on YouTube yet, just make sure you go to that link so you know where to find me moving forward as far as YouTube goes. We are live on LinkedIn. Good morning, LinkedIn. We're live on Facebook. Good morning, live on Rumble and X. I think we're live on YouTube. YouTube streaming has been giving issues. We'll get the replay up here one way or another, even if the actual stream doesn't go through. Instagram, good morning over there. Instagram and TikTok, good morning to all of you over here. And I asked y'all to shout you out where you are checking in from. I don't know if anybody said it. Nikki, good morning to you. Courtney, good morning. Good to see you. Connecticut is in the building. And what we're going to talk about here today, if you didn't see the topic, we're going to talk about the ongoing mistakes that the Democratic Party has been making. Good morning, Lee and Lisa. I actually talked about a lot of these points. I think it was during one of my mini TikTok suspensions, maybe around, actually, I know when this was. This was right after the 2024 election, one that just happened this past November. Trump had won, and I did a live that morning. So the election was on a Tuesday. I did a live on that Wednesday because I go live Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. And I was doing that live on Wednesday about Trump, being back up. And of course, emotions were high that day. So half the people who were watching my live, and I had a lot of people on that live. It was probably 400 or 500 people watching concurrently that day, the day after the election. And half of them were happy that Trump won. Half of them were really upset that Trump won. And people started, I guess I got reported too many times. So then TikTok took my live down. I got suspended for like a week. This is right after the election, which has been a great time to talk about these kind of things. So I continued to do live streams. I just wasn't doing it on TikTok for that week. Again, one of my several TikTok suspensions. And by the way, if you are watching me on TikTok right now, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's a new YouTube link in there. So if you were subscribed to my previous channel, that channel still exists, but all the content moving forward is going to be on this other channel. So make sure you subscribe to the new YouTube link. And the other thing is my Instagram. Make sure you follow me on Instagram as well. So this topic, again, ongoing mistakes of the Democratic Party. I have a list that I'm going to get to here. Actually, let me start my timer so we make sure we stay on time here today. I'm giving myself a 60-minute countdown to make sure I don't go too far with the content. Then we'll open the floor up for some discussion, and then we will wrap this one up. So let's get right into it. Let me introduce myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Baldwin. Many know me as DreAllDay. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete, author of 40 books, a creator of this brand and company called Work on Your Game. What we do here is we help service-based professionals in the entrepreneurial space build up their businesses, strategize, systematize, and scale from the 6-figure level up to the 7-figure level. You can learn more about that by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link is also in my profile or my content or somewhere, whichever platform you're watching. We put them in different places, but it's there wherever you look. Now let's get right into our points. When it comes to the ongoing mistakes of the Democratic Party, why did they go from having the power? We go back to Barack Obama 2008 to 2016. They had it. Then Trump comes in because Trump was able to defeat Hillary. Trump had one term. They were able to turn the tables on him, I think mostly because of the virus that happened in 2020, and get Biden in power. Then the plan was for Biden's plan was he was going to run for a second term. I'm not sure the Democratic Party wanted him to, but he wanted to. He was already an incumbent. They couldn't really stop him. Then he bombed in the what do you call those things? The debate in July of 2024, and then they were able to use that as the reason to get him out of there. They shoehorned Kamala into that spot, and Kamala had all these, quote unquote, vibes and energy, and the same things you're seeing now. I don't know how active y'all are on social media as far as scrolling. I don't really do much scrolling except on X. That's the only app you'll see me scrolling and engaging with people. But in the summer of 2024, after Kamala replaced Joe Biden, she would go out and do rallies, and wherever she was going to do rallies, there were these huge crowds and people were dancing around and everybody was all excited. Y'all remember this? And people were saying, because on X, I listen to and follow people on both sides of the political aisle, people who are strong left and people who are strong on the right. And people were saying all these things like, look at all this energy, look at all these fans, look at all this excitement for Kamala Harris. And then you look at Trump's rallies, and you remember during the debate, the one debate that Kamala and Trump had against each other, Kamala said one thing that I guess got Trump to react to her. I don't know why he reacted. He should not have, but he did. And she was like, well, people leave Trump's rallies. Look at Trump's rallies. People don't even come. And people were saying outside of Kamala, but they are paying people to come to Trump's rallies, and there's no excitement. There's no energy. Nobody cares about Trump. And Trump he got defensive about that and started talking about it for no reason. He chased that red herring during that debate, and everybody was like, well, Kamala won the debate. Y'all remember all this energy and all this stuff. And what I've seen over the last 2 weeks is that, I don't know if y'all noticed it, but Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they've been out. I don't know what you call what they're doing. I guess you call it campaigning. Is that fair? What you call what they're doing right now? Is it a campaign? What are they campaigning for? I don't know, because the election just happened. So are they already gearing up for 2028 now? I guess technically not wrong for them to do it, but is there another word to call what they're doing? I guess it's campaigning. So they're out there campaigning, I guess, for whatever. And again, I don't even know what is the agenda that they're trying to push. Maybe it's getting ready for the midterms. Maybe that's what they're trying to do, I suppose. And they're doing the same thing that people were saying with Kamala. Their supporters are saying the same thing. They're saying, well, look at all these people. All these people showed up, and all these people are going against the oligarchy, and all these people are going against the terrible things that the current Trump administration is allegedly doing. And they're showing also the town halls. Have y'all seen these clips? There's a town hall that's allegedly in a red area, and then the Republican congressperson is there running the town hall. He's getting called out by his constituents, and people are like, well, look at all this. People are strongly against Trump and strongly against what they're doing, and people aren't going to stand for it anymore. And again, they did this in 2024. They did this in the summer of 2024. On social media, if you just looked at social media, you would think that it was going to be a landslide for whoever on the Democratic side is running, because they are dominating. But then we saw what the outcome was in the election. Trump won every single swing state, and the Republican Party got control of Congress, both the Senate and the House. Despite social media telling you one thing, it actually ended up being a completely different thing. We've seen this movie before. So first of all, when we talk about the ongoing mistakes of Democrats, number one is this one right here, is that they keep playing this same game that is not, this game doesn't work. And they keep playing this game. Or we have all these people are coming to our rallies. Look at all these fans. Look at all these things. It's kind of like if you're running a business, for example, which I run a business, and I explain this to entrepreneurs all the time, especially over the last 10 years, is that you need to know what business you're in. And when you're in politics, yes, you are in the business of getting people excited, because excitement drives people to the polls, and that's how they vote, and that's how you end up winning in a way. But the thing is, the excitement and the quote unquote energy and the vibes and all that stuff they had with Kamala in 2024 are mere means to the end. The actual end is you have to win elections. And one of the biggest challenges that I would see if I was standing in front of the Democratic Party right now, or the people in charge of the Democratic Party, I would say, you all are playing the wrong game. Like this social media thing, same thing I would tell an entrepreneur, same thing I would tell the Democratic Party, is that social media is vanity metrics. That's what we call it. So how many people subscribe to your YouTube, how many likes you got on your Instagram posts, how many followers you have on TikTok, those are known as vanity metrics. And those of you not familiar with the term, you kind of can understand what it is just when you hear it. But vanity metrics is about the things that make you look good, and it serves your ego and it serves your vanity, but does it actually serve your desired outcome? The desired outcome when you're running a business is receipts. And I don't mean receipts like when people are talking to each other. I mean actual receipts, meaning There was a financial transaction. Somebody gave you money, you gave them a product or a service, and you made money, because the objective of a business is to generate profit and generate revenue and make the people who own the business make money, whether those are shareholders, investors, or there's a sole proprietor, whatever the situation is. That's the way business works. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're using social media for marketing or content, cool, use social media. As you can see, I'm using social media. I'm live on 7 different platforms right now, but my business is not based around social media. My business is not based around social media likes or followers or subscribers or views or engagement or what's the other terms, whatever other terms they have on social media. I don't give a damn about those terms, because I'm not in the social media business. I'm in the receipts business. Which meant if all social media went away, I could still have a business, because I have an email list. I have a relationship with my top prospects, clients, and customers. And that's what the business is about. It's not about social media. Social media is merely a tool, but it is not the business itself. And the Democratic Party seems to be focused so much on social media and, quote unquote, the messaging. You hear them talking about this all the time, the messaging. We got to control the messaging. And you got Governor Newsom out in California. Now he has a podcast, and that's cool. And I'm sure AOC is probably coming with a podcast soon. And somebody else is going to come out with a podcast. And Bernie Sanders. How old is Bernie Sanders? Anybody know the age of Bernie Sanders? And he's out there campaigning with AOC as his, and she's kind of like the number 2. He's Jordan and she's Scottie Pippen, I guess. When she's like probably half his age, or maybe less. Why shouldn't it be the other way? But anyway, this is what they're doing right now. And I don't think this is going to work. Actually, let me not say that. We already know it doesn't work. All right, they tried this already in 2024. All the vibes, all the energy, et cetera, et cetera. And now they're running a campaign as if the election is in July. Right? There's no election for, I guess, the midterms. But I don't think Bernie or AOC is in threat of losing, so they don't need to do it for that. And then you have... and also, let me also say, they're both Congress people, so their election is actually local, it's not national. So what are they getting ready for? Can somebody tell me, what are they getting ready for? I don't understand. I mean, Bernie Sanders, somebody know the age of Bernie Sanders? Can anybody put that in the comments? What is Bernie Sanders' age? Is he around, I'm thinking he's somewhere around Biden and Trump's age. This guy has to be in his late 70s into his 80s, so... Again, I don't understand what they're doing here. Somebody can help me understand. 83, is that really his age? He's really 83 years old? Oh, okay, interesting. I'm answering questions and comments at the end, by the way. So if you're leaving questions, so he is 83. I think that's older than Biden and Trump. Okay, well, hopefully he makes it. I mean, some people make it to 100 plus years old, so maybe he will. But I am just trying to figure out what they're doing here. So first of all, the distrust in the system is the biggest challenge that American citizens have with politics, period. Both Democratic and Republican politics. And what I've said and drawn a clear line of delineation between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is that the Democratic Party has planted their flag on, we want to do, more things for Americans by you all, that's us, the voters, giving them more power and control over things. And they want to federalize as more things than the Republican Party wants to. And that way they'll make things right and they'll make things more equitable, and there'll be more equality and there'll be more opportunity, and all these things that the Democratic Party, again, I'm just between the Democrats and the Republicans, if I had to frame them on either side, I think most of you would agree that the Republican Party is looking to remove federal control over things and give it back either to the states or just get rid of levels of bureaucracy, which means less federal control over our everyday lives. Whereas the Democratic Party is on the other side of that conversation. They want to have more control under the auspices that if we have more control, we're going to be able to do more things for the everyday citizen and help you out and make sure that everybody can pay their bills and everybody has health care and everybody has child care and everybody can pay for the groceries. And personally, this is my personal opinion, I would rather the federal government have less control than have more control, even if that less control means that I would be more, quote unquote, on my own for certain things than if the federal government had more control. If I just had to pick between the two, I'd rather have the government have less control than have more control. And I've talked about this several times already. If you haven't seen my previous streams, you can find them on YouTube. And eventually I may shift them from my previous YouTube channel to my current one. But if you just look my name up on YouTube, my name is Dre Baldwin, you'll find my YouTube content. We may move it from the old one to the new one at some point, but it's a manual, labor intensive job that I'm not doing right now, and not a priority for us at the moment. But eventually I'll get to it. But if you just look it up on YouTube, you'll find it. And the distrust in the system is the biggest challenge I think most Americans have. And we know this because in polling, it shows that the least trusted entities in the United States of America right now is the least trusted is the mainstream media, and the second least trusted is Congress. So when the government comes around and says, give us more control so we can do more things for you, it sounds good. They're going to want to do more things for us. But what's the trade-off? What's the cost of that doing stuff for us is that we got to give the government more power. The problem is people have learned to not trust the government. And Donald Trump has helped considerably in getting people to feel this way because he's came out with the drain the swamp and these career politicians. And listen, he's won 3 straight Republican nominations and 2 out of 3 elections, at least. This is a clear sign. Again, results-based business, folks, is a clear sign from the people that they do not trust what the government has been doing. And the career politicians that keep popping up in the Democratic Party, they're basically repackaging the same ideas they've been packaging for the last 60 years. Bernie Sanders is a career politician. How long has Bernie Sanders been in politics? Does anybody know? Anybody remember when Bernie Sanders was not in politics? Let's find out. How long has Bernie Sanders been in politics, and how long has AOC been in politics? I'm asking ChatGPT. So Bernie Sanders has been in politics for 50 years. 50 years, longer than most of you have been alive. Bernie Sanders has been in politics. He ran for office in 1972. Bernie Sanders ran for office in 1972. He was a mayor in Vermont. I don't think most of you knew that. I didn't know that. He was a mayor in 1981. Then he joined the House of Representatives in 1991. And he was in the House for 16 years. And then he became a senator. So he jumped from the representatives to the senator. He became a senator in 2007. So he's been a senator for almost 20 years. He's been in politics for 50 years. Here's my problem with a politician being in office for 50 years. Is that he is so deeply entrenched that we know that this guy has his hands in a whole lot of things that have nothing to do with the original reason that the founding fathers, the framers of our country, created government. Because it wasn't ever designed to be a full-time job. This guy has had a full-time job in politics for 50 years. He's not that much different than Joe Biden. They're around the same age. And again, it's not even so much about their policies. It's just the fact that I don't want a politician to be in position for that long because he's so entrenched that eventually he's going to get enticed by, I'm not saying he's going to engage, but he's going to get enticed by possibilities and opportunities for corruption because he's so entrenched in his space. AOC is significantly younger than him. She has been in politics for about 6 years, so she's very new. She gained national attention because she won the congressional district in 2018, beat an incumbent, and she's been a representative since 2019. Even she's been around for 6 years. I would say the term limit should be somewhere around that. That her run should be pretty much over. Bernie Sanders has been there for 50 years. That's crazy. And in politics in general, 50 years. He's been the federal since 1991, which is still a long time. Still longer than many of you have been alive. The distrust in the system is only exacerbated by the fact that these people get in and stay around. Even with someone like AOC, Bernie Sanders, I've said this before. What other professional bona fides do any of these people have? I don't forget their age. What else have any of these people achieved professionally? I'm talking where they were making a full-time income. What have they done that is not in the government and not in politics? And I'm connecting to that to help you all understand. If people don't trust the federal government and they really don't trust Congress, and you have a bunch of people representing your entity who have only been in the federal government or just been in government, period, their entire adult lives, they've never served in any other way at the professional level to where they can make a full-time income, and you're going to put them on the front line, knowing that people don't trust the government, what are you setting yourself up for? It just doesn't make logical sense. This is the problem. And this problem was, again, fully exacerbated by the presence of Donald Trump because he came from what he was doing, which was not politics. Regardless of how you feel about it, we can all agree it wasn't politics. And he came in and said, hey, I know you all don't trust politicians, so choose me. And listen, again, whether you agree with the approach or not, whether you like Trump or not, no one can argue with the outcome. The outcome is 3 straight Republican nominations and won 2 out of 3 elections. No one can argue with those outcomes. And the outcome is what matters. So if you're running a political party, what matters is the result, not the vibes, not the vanity metrics. It's the result. So both the Democrats and Republicans are part of the system. Let's be clear. Okay, so this is not an argument that is necessarily pro-Republican. They're all part of the system. And one of the reasons why half the Republican Party doesn't even like Donald Trump is because he's not part of the system. And he has alienated and gone against a whole bunch of what do they call them? A lot of people call them neocons. They've gone against the entrenched establishment Republicans because, and one of the reasons they're against him is because he did not pay his dues, quote unquote, by being in politics for 50 years, 30 years, 20 years, the way that someone like former President Biden, or you take someone like Hillary Clinton, who was younger but still career politician, Bill Clinton, career politician, Barack Obama, career politician, even George W. Bush on the other side, career politicians. And Trump came in and said, I know y'all don't trust politicians. Even though I'm on the Republican side, I ain't a politician. And it appealed to a whole lot of people. And the political parties in charge, I think some of them understand this. They understand the writing on the wall. The issue is, if you read the writing on the wall, if you're Nancy Pelosi and you read the writing on the wall, well, what's that saying about you? What are you going to do? Quit? Would you quit? If you were in Nancy Pelosi's position, would you quit? If you were in Joe Biden's position, even in the summer of 2024, would you quit? If you were in Barack Obama's position, would you quit? If you were in AOC's position, she's only been in politics for 6 years. Would you quit? Most people would not quit. Most people wouldn't walk away. Why would you walk away from access? Access to power, access to money, access to influence. Most people don't walk away from that. You have to push them out. This is the reason why a lot of American citizens are in support of term limits. The problem is for there to be term limits, I think that would have to be a congressional thing. So why would Congress people vote to eliminate their own jobs? So what's supposed to happen here? How is this supposed to work? Now, there's another way to do it. The states would have to vote, and the states can basically force Congress to have to go in and do it. But I don't see it happening because, again, the people who would influence that vote are what? The people who would be getting pushed out if those term limits came into place. If term limits came into place right now, I would think a significant number of people who are currently in Congress would be out of a job. They would have to leave. And now you're going to have all these new people coming in. So I think the entrenched people don't want to leave. And again, the fact that Donald Trump showed up is the reason why this worked, because the Republican Party is going to have a problem again as soon as Trump is out in 2028. The problem they're going to have is that they're going to be their top people, as far as what we can see now, are going to be a whole bunch of establishment politicians who are not trusted either. Now, the approach can, of course, draw a difference between one side and the other side, but they're going to have the same problem all over again because Donald Trump's the anomaly who came out of nowhere. So I don't know who the Democratic Party can come up with. It ain't going to be Stephen A. Smith, please. Not going to be him. And it's not going to be, I think the closest option we had past tense was maybe Michelle Obama, maybe. But even her, I think she gets looked at as a career politician because, again, just like Hillary, she's standing next to a guy who was president for 2 terms. So we only know her because of the guy who was a president, which kind of makes you feel like a politician, even though you weren't. But anyway, this whole vote against Trump thing, with some of you who are anti-Trump or you are on the left or you are politically leaning to the left, this anti-Trump thing is tired and old. And this is the problem, again, that I have with what Bernie Sanders and AOC are doing right now. They're on I don't know what, anybody give me a term for what they're doing right now? I guess we'll call it campaigning. This national tour that they're on right now, campaigning for what exactly? I have no idea. But the whole thing is, well, you're only showing up to this rally because you don't like Donald Trump. The thing is, Donald Trump just won an election, 6 months ago? 5 months ago? He just won the election. He has 4 years. So what are you actually campaigning for? What is this going to do? What is this going to accomplish? I don't understand it because nothing for the people to vote for right now. So what are they doing? This whole vote against Trump thing, they thought it was going to work. I'm assuming they thought it was going to work in 2024. Let's put Kamala up there. She didn't actually go through the primary process and beat anybody who was running against her. They didn't do that. They just said, okay, we're going to throw Kamala in because she's already VP. And I think the whole thing was, okay, people are so strongly against Trump that this will be enough. And clearly, again, results-based business, folks, that was not enough. People didn't want to hear that. You needed something better than that. And again, look at the swing states. In the swing states, everybody voted for Trump. Each state chose Trump. This anti-Trump thing is no longer a strong enough talking point. And Donald Trump is out after this cycle. He's out. So your whole campaign can't be, oh, we're going against oligarchs and we're going against Trump, because Trump brought in the oligarchs they're referring to are who? Donald Trump and Elon Musk. So as soon as Trump's term is over, Trump is out. And Elon's probably going with him. So what are they talking about? Again, what seeds are you planting for what outcome? Because there's not another billionaire, at least that I know of, who is going to be jumping into politics on the Republican side. So what are they getting people ready for by doing this? there's a block of voters who need actual substance to make a decision. Now, not everybody. Some of you listen to this, and I would say a good percentage. I would say it's somewhere, I would put it at about 5% of people who need actual substance, and they literally will vote on either side of the aisle. Most of you who are listening to this, I would say about 95% of you are always going to vote Democrat, or you're always going to vote Republican. Most of you would fall into one of those categories. You would never vote for the Democrats, or you would never vote for the Republicans. 5% of people would vote either side, depending on who the candidate is and what substance they're bringing to the table. That 5% is what determines the election outcome. Every election is determined by about 5% of people. And the Democratic Party has not brought any substance. And their first mistake was, again, allowing Biden to not setting Biden up to leave before he, basically had to leave because he looked so terrible on the national stage to where he couldn't even front. And then throwing Kamala in there, who, again, I was not a fan of Kamala as a candidate. I didn't think she was the right candidate, and she had already tried to run in a primary in 2020, and that didn't go too well. And the fact that they thought they would just shoehorn her in there and there's enough anti-Trump sentiment to make up for what she lacked, again, was a failing strategy by the Democratic Party. And now they're coming out and, again, after the election going on the campaign, I know I've said that a bunch of times, but I don't get it. So Democratic Party, I believe, this is just my theory. This is just a theory, TikTok, so don't kick me off for misinformation. I believe they did not want her to be the candidate, Kamala, in 2024. This is my theory. I don't think they wanted her to. I think they wanted an open primary. I think they wanted to let everybody come up and find out who the best person is so they'd be battle tested and then have that person go against Trump because we knew Trump was going to run, right? Well, actually, we didn't know Trump was going to run because in 2024, all the cases came against him, and if any of those cases going a certain way, maybe he wouldn't be able to run. So the whole point of bringing all of those legal things against Trump was to stop him from being able to run, but he ended up running anyway and defeated all the cases. And not defeated the cases. Some of them he didn't win, actually. But he defeated them in that he still became president, and the whole point of all that stuff was to stop him, and he became president anyway. So I believe what the Democratic Party wanted to do, whoever the powers that be are, let's say Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, etc., is that they wanted Joe Biden to hopefully be satisfied with the 4 years he got, announce early enough in the campaign cycle, hey, I'm not going to run for re-election. And then there'd be enough time, all of 2024, that you can have all the candidates who want to get in, let them compete against each other, may the best man or woman win, and then have that person go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump for an entire campaign cycle. How many of you think that's what the Democrats wanted to do? Put yes if you agree, or no if you don't think that's what their plan was. Or their hope. Not even their plan, but their hope. Put yes if you think that's what they want to do. Put no if you don't think that's what they want to do. All right, so I'm getting about half, maybe about 60% yes, and about half of you are saying no. 40% of you saying no. I think they wanted Joe Biden to just be happy with his 4 years. And he defiantly said, no, I am not going to be happy with my 4 years. I want to run again. I feel like I'm still in good shape. I'm still cogent. I remember, what's the guy's name in New York? Cuomo on TV. I can tell you he's cogent with that New York accent. Nobody can tell me he's not cogent. But anyway, we saw what happened in July, and that was it for Joe Biden. Now, the Democratic Party they were in a tough spot because the election is in November, so that was July. So you got August, September, October, and you only have 4 months to figure out who we're going to have run. And Kamala was already there. And what would the Democratic Party look like if you finally get a black person as vice president? Then you get a black female, and the whole is Kamala black or not thing. I did a whole live stream on that, so I'm not going to relitigate that here today. And Candace Owens performed surgery on Kamala's background in a month-long series on her YouTube, so y'all can go look that up if you haven't. But anyway, let's just say black vice president, then a black female vice president. How would the Democratic Party look if they were to say, okay, well, the president, this old white man, is not going to run anymore, and here his vice president who's eligible is female and black. And you know what? We're not going to just put her in. We're going to make her compete against everybody else, or we're going to put somebody else in her spot, in that running spot, instead of her. How would they have looked had the Democratic Party done that? So I believe they checkmated themselves. They checkmated themselves by not being strong enough in forcing Joe Biden to step down, because they could have did that before the campaign cycle started. They could have did it in early 2024, just get Joe Biden to step down. They failed to do that, and then Joe Biden had to fail in front of everybody in order for him to accept, okay, I'm going to step down. They just didn't press the issue hard enough. That was a mistake that they made. And that's how they ended up in the space they ended up. And I'm going to take questions and comments at the end, by the way. Traditional, thank you for those gifts over there. And they got stuck. And Joe Biden helped them get stuck because I think Joe Biden was kind of pissed off with the fact that they kept trying to get him to step down. And then after the debate, when he looked like, I don't know, how would you describe Joe Biden during that debate? He could not deny that because it was out there for everybody to see. He knew what the writing on the wall was if he could read it at that time, and he had to step back. But I think he was mad about the fact that even after that debate, from what I hear, and again, we didn't hear this out of Joe Biden's mouth, but from what I hear, Joe Biden was still defiant, like, no, I'm not leaving. They had to kind of keep pressing on him day after day, and it wasn't that long, but they had to keep pressing on him day after day before he finally said, okay, I'll step down and we'll let whoever is going to come in take my spot. He really did not want to step down. And on that note, during the 2024 year, we all know with Trump, you had 4 cases going at the same time. So in New York, you had the Letitia James. That was the finance case, right? The campaign finance alleged fraud case. Then in New York, you also had the EJC case with the woman who claimed Trump SA'd her back in the day. And there was a a civil case about that. Then down in Florida, you had Mr. Smith, the lawyer, Jack Smith, and this whole case about the documents that he had in the bathroom and the pictures, those famous pictures you saw. Then in the state of Georgia, you had Miss Willis, Fani Willis, and that case of the whole RICO thing. So all of these things, despite all of them going on a civil basis, civil basis is just spending money. Then you had the legal cases. All of those things fell apart. The issue with all of it, all those cases, regardless of how you feel about it, and the ones that he actually got convicted of, and the ones that he was not, and the ones that fell apart, and the ones that got dropped, like Mr. Smith and the RICO case in Georgia, all of those things, regardless of how you feel about it, we all can agree, I hope we all can agree to this. Y'all let me know, yes or no, do you agree, that all of this was designed just to block Trump from running for election? It wasn't really about the law at all. How many of you agree, yes or no? Those cases that Trump faced in 2024 were not really about the law. They were about, let's make sure this guy can't run for president. Give me a yes or no. That's what that was about. Again, even if you don't like Trump, we all can agree this is not about the law. All right, who cares how the whole thing with the campaign finance thing was he paid off a stripper. Was that woman a stripper or whatever she was? Sex worker, whatever she was. He paid the woman off, and how he logged it in his documents. That was what the whole case was about. Who cares? Why does anybody care about that? Nobody cares about that. The reason they did that is to get him. The woman, EJC, with the SA case. Again, who cares? It wasn't a legal case. It was a civil case. Who cares? Again, what's been proved? What does it prove? It doesn't prove anything because, again, the burden of proof in a civil case is basically 50-50. More likely than not, that's how you win a civil case. Is it more likely than not that this person did this thing, which is why if you're a well-known male and you are publicly noted for having a lot of money and a woman accuses you of SA, you are going to have to write a check. It's damn near guaranteed. An 80% guarantee you're going to have to write a check in the United States of America. Why? Because even if the legal case goes nowhere, and which many of them do, they fall apart because of lack of evidence. So the state's attorney chooses to not even bring the case, which happened many times, or the statute of limitations is up, whatever reason. Then all they had to do is go to civil court. Because in a legal court, you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a very high burden of proof that somebody committed a crime. But in civil case is basically 50-50. The outcome in a civil case is more likely than not. Is it more likely than not that this person did it? And if it's voted more likely than not, which is basically 51-49, you lose as a man, and now you got to write a check to that person for whatever the judgment is. And I do not like this setup at all. We've talked about this already, but we're not going to go too deep in it here. When it came to the RICO thing in the state of Georgia, there was nothing there. We all knew there was nothing there from the beginning. Maybe some of you still believe there was something there. There was nothing there. And it fell apart because of the woman and her guy that she hired for the case. It fell apart based on that, but it would have fell apart anyway. They said, well, Trump was on the phone saying, find me 11,000 votes. Again, that's a figure of speech, not go make them up and create them out of nowhere. It's a figure of speech. Find the votes. I believe that the votes exist. I just want you to find them. And again, in a legal case, there's no way you could prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he meant, oh, just go make them up. I don't think they had any way of proving that. But again, if it was anybody other than Trump, there never would have been a case in the first place. That's my point. whether you agree with my theory about the actual details or not, the case never would have happened if it wasn't for Trump. If it wasn't Trump that they were doing it to, because they were just trying to get Donald Trump. And a bunch of these people ran on this. Alvin Bragg, Tish James, Fani Willis, they went through their election campaigns on the foundation was, I'm going to get that guy. And Alvin Bragg kind of pretty much, I think we can say he delivered. Tish James, she pretty much delivered. She raised her profile significantly by doing that. This is a career case for both of them. So I never heard of either one of them before this. And Fani Willis, never heard of her either. But they all made their names. And the other guy, Jack Smith, never heard of him either. But they all are famous now. And they'll all be doing speaking tours and consulting gigs and writing books if they haven't already. Any of these people wrote a book? Any of you know? They're probably not, but they're all going to write a book, and they're all going to do speaking tours, and they're all going to have much higher consulting fees just because they're the one who went after Trump, and half the country will celebrate them for the rest of their lives just for that alone. Everybody understand this is a much bigger game that is being played here. It's not about the law, because if it was just about upholding the law, and nobody would care, because most of us, I mean, people go to court every day. People go to jail every day. People get arrested and indicted every day. We didn't care. The only reason we care is because it was Trump. And this all was designed to make sure he is not in a position to run. So they were either trying to take all his money. That didn't work. So he didn't have the finances to do it. Fail. This is what the legal system does to you, by the way. Any of you have been involved in the legal system. So that was one. Or they were going to try to incarcerate him. Or they were going to try to invalidate his status and his availability to run, because if you have this, and this against you legally, then you're not allowed to run. And you saw certain states, I believe it was Colorado, tried to remove him from the ballot. That didn't work. Supreme Court had to tell them, no, can't do that. All this was lawfare. And the problem with all of it, again, whether you are a Trump supporter or you really don't like Trump, is that it was very obvious what was being done to him, and they did it so much that it started to backfire. That was the problem. That was the mistake the Democrats made, is that everything that they were trying to do to make him look bad, they went overboard, and it backfired. And my favorite author is a guy named Robert Greene. He wrote, most of you heard of his most famous book was The 48 Laws of Power. He's written several others. And in one of those books, I believe it was the book he did with 50 Cent, which is called The 50th Law. One of the things that he talks about in that book is that every now and then in life, you're going to deal with people who are very aggressive. And they're very aggressive going after you in one way or another, whether politically or mentally, verbally, whatever. And when people start going after you aggressively, there are times when you need to fight back and just fight fire with fire. It's like if you're a boxer and you got a really aggressive boxer who just keeps coming forward and throwing punches at you. There are times when you got to throw punches back and kind of get them off you. But there are other times when you kind of want to, you remember like George Foreman passed away this past weekend, when he was fighting Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali did famously the rope-a-dope. So he took George Foreman, who was known as this big, heavy puncher who just knocked people out with one punch, and he let Foreman punch himself out, throw a bunch of punches, but he wasn't able to hurt Ali. And then when Foreman was all tired, then Ali knocked him out. Now, was Ali a bigger puncher than Foreman? No. But when Foreman overplayed his hand with aggression, Ali was able to beat him. And it's the same thing that happened with Trump, is that all the things that the Democratic Party kept trying to do to make him look bad and showing all of us, look, we got this, we got this, we got this charge, we got this conviction, we got 34 felonies and all these things. The more that they try to press on the gas to make him look bad, there's a certain point. Now, I talked about this last week when we talked about the laws of economics. There's a supply and demand curve. There was a demand from the people who wanted to see Donald Trump look bad. Is this true? Absolutely. And some of you are still demanding it right now. You still want Donald Trump to look bad. And by the way, if you're watching me on TikTok, make sure you click on the links in my profile, follow me on Instagram, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I've been suspended on TikTok 8 times in the last 6 months for talking about stuff like what I'm talking about right now. So there is a demand of people who want to see Donald Trump look bad and bashed and attacked and who knows, jailed and anything else you want to see bad happen. There is a demand, and there was a supply for it. The issue is, in economics, when the supply and demand curve hit, that's when you get your sweet spot. Now, if you keep supplying stuff after the demand has already been met, now the value of the thing you're supplying goes down because there is too much in circulation. So if y'all understanding my metaphor here, and again, this is a law of economics, when you oversupply something more than there is a demand, it actually starts to have a reverse effect. It starts to actually be worth less because you have oversupplied it. So you watered down the supply. The issue that the Democratic Party has, they still have to this day, and it was very obvious in 2024, is that they oversupplied negative Donald Trump coverage. And the mainstream media helped them. They can't help themselves because they just take anything that's sensational and they put it out there. The Democratic Party went too far. That was their problem. They went too far in going against him. And by going that far, and remember the mugshot that he used as a photo and all of those things that they did to him, it actually started to have the reverse effect where people started to say, wait a minute, they're going a little bit too far with this. They're trying a little bit too hard with this. What are they actually trying to hide? And it started to push people from being against him, because look at all this negative stuff, to, all right, y'all doing a little bit too much negative stuff. Now we're going to start looking at y'all. And this is a mistake that they made. And hopefully there's someone in the Democratic Party who understands this. They should understand this by now. It's been 6 months. They should understand that they did too much. They turned Trump, who was supposed to be this enemy, what's the word I'm looking for? He was supposed to be, the word is escaping me, but he's supposed to be this bad guy. They turned him from being a bad guy to being a sympathetic figure. Not because he did anything to make himself sympathetic. Well, actually, he did. That shot that somebody shot at him in Pennsylvania, when he survived that, some people think it was staged. Okay, well, if you think that, fine. I'm not here to argue forensics. So taking that attempt on his life, number one, and then all the lawfare, whether the attempt on his life happened or not, the lawfare hurt. The lawfare ended up hurting them more than it hurt him. And there are still, moving on to my next point here, but there's a lot I could talk about with that. I don't want to spend too much time on it. We got 22 minutes on the clock here as far as the content, then we'll get to the conversation. There is still a solid base of Americans, and this is another issue the Democratic Party has. There is still a solid base of Americans who stick to traditional values and standards. Traditional values and standards. There are still a lot of these folks. These are the people who live in what many of you call the flyover states, and or they just don't live in big cities. A lot of these people with traditional values just don't live in big cities. So these are not people who are all over social media, generally making a whole lot of noise. They are not the ones whose positions are being echoed by your favorite influencers on the internet, because the traditional values are not sensational. They're not headline grabbing. Traditional values are usually based around just consistency and discipline and basics. There's still a very big population of these folks, and they've always been there. They never disappeared. This population of people, many of you are in this group, have always been around. The thing is, and what you all need to understand about elections, is that there are about 330 million Americans. And in every election, you get around half of them vote. Around half of the people vote. And generally, about half of eligible voters actually go to the polls and actually vote for somebody. And the reason why that matters is because a lot of times the difference in an election, winning and losing, is about who can you get to actually go vote. So when someone is not super excited about one candidate or the other, they generally just abstain and don't vote at all. So someone could be a Republican and they could be a Democrat, but if they're not excited about the Democratic candidate or the Republican candidate, or anti-excited, like with Trump, I think one of the reasons Biden won in 2020, there's a lot we can say about the 2020 election. I'm not going to get into it here because I don't want to get suspended again. But in 2020, I think a lot of what allowed or helped Biden win was that he was able to successfully drum up enough anti-Trump energy that a bunch of people went and voted for Biden, not for Joe Biden, but for going against Donald Trump. Kamala was not able to do that because what Kamala did, and again, there's many things we could say. This is not the only reason. But what Kamala did was make the election about her. The election was about, well, Kamala is Kamala. The 2020 election was about Trump is Trump, vote against him. It wasn't about Joe Biden. It was about Trump. Trump is Trump. Don't let him stay in. Go vote against him. And a bunch of people responded to that enthusiastically. The 2024 election was Kamala is Kamala. Go vote for her. And that argument is not as compelling as Trump is Trump. And at the same time, let's just leave it at that. You have to galvanize people to actually go do stuff. You can't just give people information. You can't give people logic and information and expect them to take action. Most people, human beings, 3 truths about humans. I've been saying this for over 10 years. Most people do not think, they do not read, and they are generally lazy, mentally and physically lazy. So if you want people to do something that goes outside of their normal mode of operation, you have to give them a reason, a compelling reason. And what I was talking about here, I digress, was about Donald Trump and the conservative value folks in the United States of America. There are a ton of these people, enough to win an election if you can galvanize them to go vote. And guess who was able to do that? Donald Trump. Donald Trump was able to galvanize a bunch of people who were basically lethargic and indifferent when it came to politics because they were looking at things, they didn't like it, and they may have disagreed with, because Trump followed Obama, right? So many of these folks, some of you who are listening to me right now, strongly disagreed with what Obama was doing and what he stood for and the way he was coming across. because a lot of people looked at Obama as he's a political elite and he's one of these people who just focuses on the big city folks and these progressive ideals that he was about, and he very much was about a whole lot of that stuff. And there were a bunch of people with conservative values that strongly disagreed with Obama, but despite that disagreement, here's the key point. Despite their disagreement with Obama, they still were not going to go out and vote against whoever was coming next, because who followed Obama was Hillary. And Hillary worked for Obama. She was in his what they call his administration. And she was married, of course, to Bill Clinton, who was also a 2-term Democrat. So even though they didn't like Obama, even though they probably didn't like Hillary, they still wouldn't go out and vote unless the candidate for the Republican Party was galvanizing enough to get them to get up and say, okay, I don't like what the other side is producing, what this side is producing is strong enough to get me to actually go to the polling place and vote on election day. That's why Trump won. He's able to get those people excited. You got to get people excited to win an election. Because again, just leaving your house to go vote is a step outside of your normal mode of operation. Don't just assume that people are going to do it just because. And anyone who works in politics understands this very well. The whole thing is getting people to vote. It's not who they're going to vote for. You already got support. There's a whole bunch of Democrats who support the Democratic Party, but if they're not excited about the candidate, they ain't voting. The reason why Barack Obama won twice is because he got a bunch of people excited to vote for him. People got excited about him. And for those of you not reading between the lines, federal elections are popularity contests. They are not policy contests. Policy, no way. Now, what a lot of people like to do is try to intellectualize their opinions or their positions. So people will say something like, well, I voted for the Democrat because of this policy and that policy. Bullshit. No, you didn't. You voted for him because you were excited about him. Logic does not get people excited. You have to figure out a way to cloak your logic in something that gets people excited. What got a bunch of people excited about Donald Trump was very clear and very simple ideas. America first. We're going to close our borders and we're going to focus on serving the people who live here instead of trying to be global citizens like Barack Obama was about. That's it. That's why he won. That's why he's won three straight Republican tickets, nominations, and why he won 2 out of 3 elections. So he's able to get people excited to actually do something. It's one thing to post on social media. It's easy. I can post on social media from right here without doing anything. That's not action. Action is getting people to show up. And there are a whole bunch of people in America who, through Donald Trump, have realized that those values and standards, they have been reminded those values and standards are worth upholding, and there's somebody in Washington, D.C. who is going to fight for you. That's what Donald Trump represents. That there are traditional values and standards, and there's an idea about what it means to be an American, that we are not trying to turn this into turn this melting pot into soup, where we're just going to let a whole bunch of people come in who are from outside of here, who don't care about our standards, don't care about our traditional values, don't care about our conservative ways of living, don't care. We are not going to just let these people keep coming into our country and let our leaders keep supporting this and using emotional frames to make it seem like it's a good idea. And here's somebody who's going to stand strong against it and say it out loud and say it with his chest, as Kevin Hart likes to say, to paraphrase, saying it with his chest, and he's standing on it, and he is not going to back down when someone challenges him on it. This is the guy we can support. And long story short, Donald Trump has some balls. He said things that a lot of people agree with, and he had the balls to say it out loud and stand on it even when challenged. The issue when Donald Trump leaves office is that whoever comes up behind him needs to have the same balls that he has, and I'm not sure the Republicans have that person. As a matter of fact, I am sure they don't. They don't have that person. Now, it doesn't mean the Republicans can't win in 2028, but somebody with the moxie of a Trump, because anybody who's going to come after him, I'm assuming this is going to be a career politician, they operate by a certain code of conduct. And this is the reason why the Democrats have not been able to figure out Donald Trump. Politicians operate by a code of conduct. Bernie Sanders operates a certain way that is the only way he knows how to operate. He's been in politics for 50 years. Joe Biden, same thing. Barack Obama, even though significantly younger. AOC, she's learning it. There's a certain code of conduct you operate by when you are a career politician, because you don't know anything else. You've never done anything else professionally besides being in politics. There's a way you move in politics. Donald Trump didn't care about that way of movement because he didn't come from the political world. He came in and did things the way he wanted to do it. And when they tried to control him, it didn't work. So who's going to come behind him? If it's another career politician, if it's J.D. Vance is a career politician. I mean, he's a young guy. He's a career politician. he's going to be operating by this code of conduct. Doesn't mean he can't win, but he ain't going to be Donald Trump. And the issue with that is the excitement level to support the Republican candidate is up here right now because of Donald Trump. Any career politician who follows him, the excitement level is going to be down here. So there's an issue if you're a Republican MAGA supporter, you're a conservative. This is something you need to keep in mind because this is a serious issue that needs to be addressed. Because if the Democratic side can get someone who can galvanize and get people excited, like Barack Obama got people excited. If someone of his level of excitement comes up against some career politician who can't get people as excited as Trump, is going to be a letdown after Trump. 2028 is going to be Democrat. My opinion, my theory, as for right now. And also keep in mind 2026. Fewer people vote in 2020 in the midterm elections, but it's still going to be something to be talked about. And that's also something that, as far as the Republican side, any of you as a Republican voter should keep in mind. 2026, we all know how these things work in these election cycles. Whoever's in charge, the people get mad about whatever they don't like about their lives, which often has nothing to do with the president, and they go vote against them because I'm mad about the price of eggs, so let me go vote against the president. Is the president the reason why the eggs are whatever price? No. Logically, no. But again, most people are not logical because most people don't think. And then whoever is in office is the same thing that happened with Obama. Whoever's in office in those midterm elections, the other side galvanizes their people to go get control of Congress and then basically block you and thwart you from doing anything you want to do. Those of you who follow politics at all, you remember Barack Obama during his last term in the midterm elections, the Republican Party galvanized the fans, their voters, to go and vote in the midterm elections. They got control of the House, they got control of the Senate, and Barack Obama couldn't get anything done. They designed it to do it that way. Why? Because he was in power. Had it been a Republican in power, the Democrats would have tried to do it. So what's going to happen in 2026? The aim is they want to get, the Democratic Party wants to get enough people mad about Donald Trump's presence that they get control of the House and the Senate, and therefore Donald Trump can't get anything done. They won't be able to get anything done either. So it's basically going to be a stalemate in the government. So they are going to try to pass bills to the president to sign. He's going to say no. And everything he wants to do, he's going to try to tell Congress to do it. And they're going to say no. And nothing's going to get done for the next 2 years. And who gets screwed in this entire process? The everyday voter. This is the reason why I'm not a fan of federal politics in general. Because it's not about us. It's about them. This is just political posturing. So what Bernie and AOC are doing right now, I believe, is political posturing. And if Kamala had won, then there'd be some Republicans doing the same thing. So don't take this as a Democrat or Republican talking point. They all do it. This is the reason why we don't trust politicians. Is that they're all just playing the game of, all right, whoever's in power, all right, we got to get people mad about them. And if we're in power, we got to get you thinking that we're working for you when they're all just working for themselves. Now, how do we believe? Why do I have the theory that politicians are working for themselves? Because what I just tell you, how long Bernie Sanders been in politics? 50 years. He's working for himself because he wants to keep his job. Y'all understand? When you can be in politics your entire life, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, when you can be in politics your entire life. What's the other guy? What's the guy from South Carolina? What's his name? Lindsey Graham. All these folks. When you can be in politics your entire life, just to make sure y'all don't think I'm just saying it about Democrats, it's all of them. You are going to do things. Eventually, there's going to come a time when you can make a decision that serves your constituents, i.e. the people who voted for you and voted you in, who you're supposed to be serving. And there's a conflict of interest between serving them and serving yourself personally. I.e., what do I have to do to keep my job and win votes in my next election? Not serve the people who voted for me, but win votes in my next election, whether I'm serving them or not. And there's a conflict of interest. This conflict should not exist. There should be no conflict of interest. If you can only be in politics 6 years, then you're probably going to prioritize, let me do the best job I can do for the people during this 6 years. Because whether I do a good job or a bad job, I'm out anyway. So I might as well just help the people. I might as well just help the people because there's nothing I can do to keep this job because I'm out after 6 years. And which is a good thing about an outgoing president like Barack Obama in his second term. Good thing about Donald Trump in his second term is that he has no reason to do anything to politically posture because he's out no matter what he does. So I like a president who's on their last term to do what they actually want to do. Now, whether I agree with it or not is a different story. But do I believe they're going to do what they want to do? Yes, because they have nothing to campaign for. They're not running again. Donald Trump has nothing to campaign for. So whatever he actually wants to do, I believe he's going to do it. And this is the reason why we need to have term limits for all of these mofos, because they have to do things to serve themselves. Wouldn't you do it? That's my question to all of you listening. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. If you were in Congress, just say you just got in and you want to have a career in politics, eventually you're going to do some things that might not help the people you're supposed to be helping, but instead it helps you. Why? Because you want to keep your job. You want to keep the money. You want to keep the access. You want to keep the influence. You want to keep the power. And you want to keep every other way that you can make money because you have the position that you have. Not even so much the salary. Any of you who's ever looked up or seen these graphics about the salaries that people in politics make? These people are they're not getting paid enough to become wealthy in their positions. They might make a low six figures at their jobs, which is not enough it's enough to have a good life depending on where you live, but ain't enough to be wealthy. But then you look at the alleged wealth numbers of these people. How are they able to do that? Because of their access. You get access when you're in those positions. It's not about the salary, it's about the access. Again, would you trade that access when there's a conflict of interest between what's going to serve my people and what's going to serve me and my building my dynasty and building my wealth for my kids? Which one would you do? That conflict of interest is why we don't trust the government. I don't care what side you're on. So this sensational politicization of everything that Trump and Elon are doing currently. So we move it up to what's happening right now. Everything Trump and Elon does, of course, you're going to get a negative story about it, and someone's going to come up with some logical basis, quote unquote, the facts about why it's a bad thing, whatever Elon and Donald Trump are doing. Here's the problem. Most of you, let me not say most of you, most people in general are very easily persuaded by facts. And facts you can lie with facts. Any of you didn't know, understand what I'm about to explain to you. There's a book out there. You can find it on Amazon. It's relatively short. It's called How to Lie with Statistics. And statistics are facts, right? You know how people argue about Michael Jordan versus LeBron. They just put up some stats. Here's some LeBron stats. Here's Jordan stats. This is why Jordan's better. Here's why LeBron's better. Thing is, you can pick and choose facts. Stats are just a form of factual information. The thing is, there's a lot of facts that you can choose from when you're talking about any subject. So if you want to give me the facts on Donald Trump, you can give me a list of 50 facts that all make him look terrible. Is this true? Yes, you can. You also give a list of 50 facts that make him look amazing. Is this true? Yes, it is. So when someone says they're giving you facts on a thing, what you need to ask yourself, and you should ask them, is, okay, these are the facts that support your position. Let me ask you, sir or miss, tell me all the facts that would disprove and challenge your position if you were your opponent and trying to make you look bad. Tell me every fact that goes against every fact you just gave me. Now, if you ask anybody that question, let me tell you what's going to happen. Number one, they're going to ignore you and not say anything because they don't want to answer that question. Number two, they will never tell you that there are no other facts because then they'd be straight up lying to your face and everyone would see that they're bullshitting you. Number three, you're never going to get the answer. All right. So basically, what you got from number one and number two is number three. You're never going to get the answer. Anytime someone comes to you and they tell you they're giving you the facts on a situation or they're giving you facts, period, on anything. And it's clear that they're trying to persuade you to see things one way. Here's the question you should always ask. And by the way, you should ask yourself this exact same question. What are the facts that would actually challenge every single fact that I just listed? This is a form of critical thinking. So all the facts over here make me believe this because that's what you already believe. Okay, if I had to believe the opposite, what facts are there to support that? And see, if you can start asking people that, then people get a lot more quiet if they have to present opposing facts. This is the reason why in case, again, those of you who are not familiar with my background and my work, in 2020, I did back-to-back live streams, and this is before I was doing TikTok. This is like Facebook and YouTube, maybe Instagram, something like that. I did a live stream that said why Joe Biden is going to win the 2020 election. It's on YouTube to this day. You can find it. Then the next day, I did another live stream that said why Donald Trump's going to win. And of course, after Biden won, a bunch of people left comments on the Trump video like, LOL, that didn't age well, you're wrong, LOL, because they didn't see the other video. And in 2024, same thing. I did one, why Kamala was going to win. And then the next day, I did why Trump was going to win. And of course, when Trump won, a bunch of people left comments on the Kamala video. LOL, you dummy, this didn't age well, you stupid liberal, etc., etc. And they don't even know who I am. They just saw the video and just left a negative comment because Trump ended up winning. Critical thinkers can argue both sides of any situation. And I'm bringing all this up to help you all understand you do not fall victim to the sensational politicization of things that get said about Elon and Trump, because every time somebody presents you a fact that seems like a damning, overwhelming fact, ask yourself, what is the counterfact? And if someone tells you there's no counterfact, they're lying to you. There's always a counterfact. The truth, ladies and gentlemen, is all facts in complete context. The issue why most people are not interested in the truth, not truth, period, the truth, because the truth without the word the is, okay, it's daytime right now in South Florida, but 12 hours from now, it will be nighttime. All right, so the truth is malleable. It changes based on circumstances, but the truth always stays in place. Like Miami is in the southern part of the state of Florida. That's the truth. And most people don't want to talk about the truth because, first of all, it would invalidate everything they're sensationalizing. Michelle, thank you for that hand hearts. And also, they can't push you to think a certain way if they give you the truth, all the facts, because then that puts you in a position to think for yourself. And most of the time, especially in politics, I just explained to you how politicians are incentivized to do things to protect their own interests, not to serve you. They will do things that basically serve them. So they're only going to tell you the facts that serve their position. I'm not going to tell you the facts that go against their position, because every politician, there are facts that go against their position. Another reason why I would never be in politics, because whatever you do, you can't please everybody. There's no way to please everybody in politics. So why would somebody sign up for a job like that and do it for 50 years? Bernie Sanders. Why would you do that? Why would you sign up for a job that no matter what you do, you can't please everybody, and you might be making $175,000 a year-ish? He's probably gotten raises, but I mean, would you sign up for a job where no matter what you do, somebody's going to be pissed off at you, like really, really angry at you? Why would you sign up for that job? I mean, if you're paying me $175 million a year, I might sign up for the job and take the trade-offs. But $175,000, no thank you. I can get a job where everybody's happy. At least everybody who I serve is happy with everything I do and make the same amount of money. Why would you sign up for politics? I just told you. Because of the access that they want. And the access leads to a whole bunch of other things that you don't see on that payroll document. Everybody understand what I'm saying here? So, young voters, Hispanics, white people without degrees, and even black voters. So any of you seen these diagrams where they show who supports Trump, and they see that people who, when they talk about college education, that's another thing. So people without degrees all support Trump, and then they said the highest level of disagreement with Trump was white females who have college degrees. So educated white females really don't go with Donald Trump. You can draw your own conclusions for why that is. The thing is, this is still a key demographic to get the same amount of votes. Whether you got a college degree or not, you get a vote, and if you choose to exercise it. So this whole idea, and I talked about this also as well. Everything I'm talking about here, I've talked about in depth. Every single point is this whole more educated people vote for the Democrat, or let's say Kamala, and the less educated people vote for Trump. So what conclusion is that drawing? Is people say, well, the smart people voted for Kamala and the dumb people voted for Trump. My response to that is a couple things. Number one, if all the smart people voted for Kamala, why were the smart people unable to figure out how to get their message across to people who are less intelligent than they are? That seems to be a mistake on your part, Mr. or Mrs. Smart Person. If you are that much smarter, you're significantly smarter than the people who have the opposite opinion of you, then it should be easy for you to change their mind because you're so smart. Right? Does that not make sense? Is that anybody not finding that? If you believe the more educated people, i.e. more intelligent, the people who just know things more, if they're the ones who voted this way and you want the dumb people to see things your way, shouldn't it be easy for you to convince them? I mean, you're smarter than them. What's the problem? I think what will be more difficult is for the dumb people to convince the smart people. It should be easy for the smart people to convince the dumb people. So this whole idea of the more educated people voted one way and the less educated people voted another way, like, how did y'all lose? I don't understand it. If you're the more educated person, then, I mean, your whole thing is being educated. So it should be easy for you to transfer knowledge to other people. What's the problem? Oh, they're too dumb to understand what you're saying. No, that is a cop-out. I say this as a person who is in the information marketing consulting space. I'm in the knowledge space, or there's a word I'm looking for that is escaping me right now. I'll get back to it in a second. When you're in the space of you disseminate what you know to other people as part of your business, it is your job to get your point across to people who don't know what you know. That's the very job. That's the job of a teacher. You got a classroom full of students who don't know what you know. Your job is to get them to know it. And if they don't know it, then you're failing. Is this true or not? So this whole concept, it doesn't even make any sense. Well, they're too dumb to understand. No, you're just not good enough at getting your point across is actually the problem. So as I already said, Democrats overplayed their hands, and these are all career politicians. And it's very difficult to wipe off the stain of being a career politician after Donald Trump has stepped into politics. Since he stepped in, now he has put this label on all career politicians that they're a career politician. Now, again, those of you who are conservative, those of you who are MAGA and Republican supporters, don't get happy about this, because in 2028, y'all going to have the same problem that the Democrats have unless another Donald Trump comes along. Who's that's going to be? I don't know. I don't see that person. But if it's some career politician who just happens to be a Republican, you got the same problem. And then we're back to where we were in 2015. All right, all these career politicians, we don't trust them. I'm not going to vote for anybody because I don't like either one. All right, that's where people are. That's where people were in 2004. In 2008, people got excited about Obama. In 2016, people got excited about Trump for 3 straight elections. In 2028, we're going to be right back at 2004. And this is for all of you. In 2028, we're going to be right back at 2004, where the American citizen, the average American citizen who is not super engaged in politics, is going to be saying, all right, we got a career politician on this side, a career politician on that side. I don't trust any of these mofos. I'm not voting at all. And there will be fewer people who actually participate in voting based on a percentage because they don't trust anybody. Now, Barack Obama was a career politician, but he was relatively young. He got people excited because he wasn't an entrenched politician. He had some experience, but he wasn't some entrenched guy. He wasn't Joe Biden. He wasn't Hillary Clinton. He wasn't who's the other person? Kamala Harris was not Barack Obama. Kamala Harris is like, how old was Obama when he ran? He was like early 40s. Kamala Harris is damn near 60. So they're not parallel, which we can see. All right, because if they were, then we would have had a different outcome. All that said, folks, here's what we're going to do. Klopp said JD isn't a career politician. What was he doing? What was JD doing before politics? Now, let me ask ChatGPT, because you might not be able to give me full context. How old is JD Vance? How long has he been in politics? And what other things has he done professionally besides politics? So someone mentioned JD. I know JD is relatively young, but so JD Vance is 40 years old. Okay, so he's young. He got elected to the Senate. His political journey began in 2022. Okay, so he just got in. Okay, for 3 years. So you're right about that. He's relatively young. He was in the military from 03 to 07. Okay, military, fine. Then he got a bachelor's degree he went to college. Then he went to law school. He got out of law school in 2013. Law school is long, man. I don't know how y'all do it. And no, I'm not a lawyer. Anybody wonder? I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on TikTok. 2016, he put out a book. Oh, he was a venture capitalist. Okay, so he worked in the tech industry, and he was at a venture capital firm co-founded by Peter Thiel. He worked there. Then he started his own venture capital firm. And okay, so he did military service, legal education. All right, I don't care about the school. All right, military, fine. That's okay. Legal education, don't care. He wrote a book, don't care. That's not a career. He wrote one book. He did venture capitalism. Okay, then he jumped into. Okay, so he's a venture capitalist. So similar to what's my other guy's name? Vivek Ramaswamy. Fine. All right, fair enough. The issue still is that he's been a politician. He's been the vice president already, and compared to Trump, he doesn't generate the same energy. And again, Republican supporters, you're going to have the same problem. Whatever way you want to slice it, you're going to have the same problem when Donald Trump steps down. Is that most voters are not going to get nearly as excited for JD Vance as it currently stands as they were for Donald Trump. It's going to be a letdown in energy. That's the reason why I mentioned my favorite author, Robert Greene. One of the chapters of 48 Laws of Power: never step into a great man's shoes. You don't want to be the Republican coming behind Donald Trump. So JD Vance, he's in a good position because he gets to be the VP to Trump, and he gets to have a platform being next to Trump. The problem is if he tries to follow in Trump's shoes, he's not Trump. So the energy is going to go from here to here, even if JD Vance is amazing. The best version of JD Vance is not equal to the amount of energy that Donald Trump generates. Do y'all understand it? It's kind of like if you were on the Chicago Bulls and you played the 2-guard position right after Jordan retired. No matter what you do, you ain't Jordan. All right, so there's going to be a letdown just because you ain't Michael Jordan. Even if you're great, you ain't Jordan. So that's the problem, is following behind somebody who was that galvanizing. No matter what you do, you will never live up to who that person was. And that's the issue of stepping out of Trump's shadow. And again, the biggest issue here is votes. You win elections by votes. You need people to come vote, not vibes, not social media followers, not how many people came to your rallies. Kamala Harris, not Joe Biden. What's the guy's name? Bernie Sanders, AOC. That's not how you win elections. You win elections by getting people to vote for you. And who do you have to beat? That's what the game comes down to. All that said, folks, what I'm going to do is take questions and comments. Now, what I need to do right now, those of you who are watching me for the first time, let me remind you again, make sure you click on the link to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because we reactivated a YouTube channel here that I'm going to start putting my YouTube content on moving forward from the old one. Old one will still be there, but we're not going to put videos on there anymore. And make sure you subscribe to me or follow me on Instagram. My Instagram link and my YouTube link are both in my profile on TikTok. What I'm about to do right now is I need to run to the restroom. It's going to take me all of 90 seconds, okay? I'm going to go to the restroom. It's going to take me 90 seconds. I'll be right back, and then I'm going to take questions and comments, okay? Everybody wait 90 seconds. I can't play music because we're on YouTube, and if I play music, then I'm going to get a copyright thing. So can y'all just sit in silence for 90 seconds? I'll be right back, and then we're going to take questions. Just hold on. All right, done. So I appreciate those of you for waiting. Let me see what we got. I didn't see YouTube. I don't even know if they can even see me on YouTube. YouTube's giving me all kinds of issues right now. Facebook. Let me see if I see any comments on there. I can't see LinkedIn comments. If there are any, I can't see them. Let me see what we got on Instagram. Jersey Girl said they don't want that. Yes, you're correct about that. All right, let me see what we got on TikTok. So let me scroll up as far as I can on TikTok. By the way, if you're on TikTok, if you left a comment when I was talking earlier, I may not be able to see it. I can only see as far as they let me scroll. So the first comment I see when I go all the way up is Greg Sisk. He says, Senate and Congress are made to be short-term job, wasn't made to be a career. Exactly. That's the whole point. It's the reason why the president has term limits, because we don't want to give anyone absolute power. And we don't want anyone to get entrenched in power because they become susceptible to corruption when you sit in any seat for too long. Just Kia said Elon shouldn't be able to do anything. I disagree with that, Kia, because Elon was appointed by the president. We elected the president. He gets to pick his people. So he doesn't have to be elected to be able to do stuff. And just for the record, also just Kia, there's a whole bunch of people in the government who you don't even know their names, let alone did they get elected, who are doing a whole lot of things. Elon is just the poster boy for it because he's famous and because he's standing next to Donald Trump, so people are getting all angry about it. But there's a whole bunch of people in the government right now doing stuff that directly affects you. You don't even know their names, you don't know their titles, and you did not vote for them. So again, people are only using Elon, but he ain't the only one. Cleo Shaw said, thing in the beginning of their careers alone, they just never took action. I don't know what that means. Lil J said Elon is a conflict of interest. You mean Elon the human, or you mean he has a conflict of interest? And if so, what is it? User 532. User 532, you have a profile photo, but you don't have a name. Can y'all do something with these usernames? Said the media is paid to promote misinformation by Democrats. Some people believe that, and I understand your angle. I do believe the media leans more towards the left than they do the right. That I agree with. Adam said you can't bribe them enough for them to move. Well, the whole thing is they shouldn't even be in position to receive anything because there should be a term limit to where they only get a certain amount of time, then they got to move on. Miss Cunningham said data can be manipulated. Yes, and it's not even that, Miss Cunningham. It's not even so much you need to manipulate the data. You just choose which data you want to show, and then you just leave out the other data. That's it. It's kind of like if I wanted to make an argument that it's cold in South Florida, I could just show you all the days this year when the temperature was under 60 degrees. There have been several, or at least the low temperature was under 60 degrees. I don't have to manipulate the data. I'm just showing you the data I want you to see and leaving out the data that I don't want you to see. That's the way you can easily deceive people, by just showing them what you want them to know. Omnivore says statistics are not facts. Yes, they are. Statistics are facts. I just gave you an example. If I just showed you the statistics of all the days in Miami this year when the low temperature was under 60 degrees, those are statistics and they are facts. That factually did happen. There was a day when the low temperature was like 50 degrees. That is a fact. Now, that doesn't mean it represents the truth of how it is. It doesn't represent the truth of the climate. It's very misleading, but it is a fact. You can mislead people with facts. That's the whole point that I made. Happiness, good morning. Clop, thank you for the rose over there. Shauna Connolly said they don't care about the private sector because they don't plan on ever being part of it again. That's a good point. That's a really good point. I'm contemplating that right now, and you're probably right. And it makes sense. If you don't have term limits, then why would you leave? Again, if you can stay in there and keep your access, why would you leave? The only people who leave are people who get voted out and they can't get back in, but they want to. They want to get back in. Like, what's the guy's name in New York? Bowman. He got voted out. Do you think he wants to get back in? Hell yeah, he wants to get back in. Why does he want to get back in? For the access, not for the money. People don't get in politics, at least not salary-wise. They don't get in it for the money. They get it for the access. Bill Doe said you can argue this for both sides. Yes, I don't know what you were referring to, but yes, you can argue anything for both sides. And a critical thinker can argue things and does argue things for both sides. Bill J says someone who receives federal spending should not be deciding how we cut back on government spending. Okay, fair enough. That frame is fair, Lil J, but now we got to get deeper into it. So your frame, I agree with. However, it depends on where, and you mean federal, what do they call it? Like federal grants. He's getting money from the government. Elon's companies receive money from the government. It's not him personally getting the money. His companies get the money. So we have to make sure that we're wording this properly so it can be accurate. His companies receive money from the government because his companies do things that help the government. So it's not like he's just getting a handout from the government. He's actually doing things to serve the government. That's the reason why they're willing to give him money. So we can't just leave that part out. You can't just gloss over that, Lil J. That has to be brought up. And when you bring that part up, now your frame, it kind of loses its footing a little bit, loses a little bit of its balance when you put the context behind the point. And this is what I mean. When people just give you these points, Lil J, what you said here is not to diss you, Lil J, for the comment. I appreciate you leaving it. But when someone makes this comment like what you said, someone who receives money from the government shouldn't be deciding on how the government cuts back on spending. If people only got that and they didn't have any context, then everyone would be against the process of what Elon is doing, because what you said is true, but it's not the truth. The truth is, again, all the facts and all the context. So I just added some of the context, which is he gets money from the government because he's doing things that the government wants him to do, is why they're willing to give him money. Nobody does something for nothing. And that's one thing. And then what spending is he addressing? He's not addressing. It's not like he's getting money for Tesla and then saying, well, let's make sure we don't give money to Toyota and Chevy and Mercedes-Benz. That would be a conflict of interest directly. That's not what he's doing. He's looking at the spending of the government on things that have nothing to do with what his company is doing. And if it is, just because, let's be clear. Let's say that Elon was getting a bunch of money for Tesla, right? And then he figured out a way to not give money to Toyota because he doesn't want Toyota as a competitor. That would look like a conflict of interest on the surface. However, we got to look at why he wants to cut back on giving money to Toyota. Maybe it makes sense, even if Elon wasn't doing it, to still not give money to Toyota. So just because he happens to be in a position where you could frame it as a conflict of interest does not necessarily mean that what he's doing is wrong. So again, that's why the context needs to be included in these conversations. Just Kia says statistics are not facts. They teach in statistics that you can screw stats. That doesn't mean that they're not facts. Statistics are facts. The thing is, the truth requires a whole lot of facts. Just because something is taken out of context does not mean it's not a fact. And when I played basketball professionally, and before I got into doing what I do now as an entrepreneur, there were times in college when I played. I'm trying to think, were there any games like this? No, probably not. But there were games in college, let's just say, that I scored fewer than 10 points in a game. Is that a fact? Yes, it is. Is it a statistic? Yes, it is. There was a game when I only scored 4 points. That's a stat from a game. Is that a fact? Yes, because I scored 4 points in a game. That is a fact. Now, is it representative of the entirety of me as a basketball player? No. That's why the statistic can be misleading, but it is. You can't say something's not a fact just because you don't like it or you don't agree with it. Raphael said, I hear Joe coming out now. Actually, I did hear that. I did hear that. And I don't think you mean a boxing match when you say fight, but that Joe Biden was possibly floating the idea. Or they said they just want to get back involved. And they being him and his wife. Joe Biden and his wife want to get back involved in politics. I guess they want to go out and campaign against Trump again. Why? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he'll run again. That'll be a good one for the Democrats. Sarcasm. Let's see. Ms. Cunningham said NGOs have zero fiscal accountability when they receive their money. Yes, that is correct. That's the reason why everyone's talking about NGOs now. I never heard anybody talking about NGOs before this cycle. Now everybody's talking about NGOs. Bill Doe said, just over talk, and that means you're right. Well, Bill Doe, I'm not over talking to anyone because I'm the only one speaking. So who am I over talking? Over talk requires two people. K. Renee said, Joe wasn't busy, that auto pin was. What's that even? What's an auto pin? I don't even know what that is. Yvonne said, Trump stole money with his fake university. There's no skewing that fact. Okay, well, I don't know if that actually happened or not, Yvonne, but let's assume, Yvonne, Samuel Zalai, that what you just said about Trump and his fake university are true. Let's just assume that that's true, right? And it's a fact. How does that affect anything that's happening right now? So there's another thing about facts, is that there are some facts that are just completely irrelevant. So I'm not even asserting that what you said is a fact, but let's assume that it is. What does it matter? How does that change anything that's happening today? Frankenstein Studio said the connection between NGOs and politics needs to be severed. Well, this is what Elon's trying to do. Who has a problem with that? The only problem people have is that Elon's standing next to Donald Trump. They don't have a problem with what he's actually doing. They got a problem that he's doing it while standing next to Donald Trump. Miss Cunningham said NGOs are lying. Yeah, I know. I know about Miss Cunningham. You're right about the NGOs. The good news is, good thing about the internet and the age that we're in now and how everybody started paying attention to politics because of Donald Trump is that now a lot of us are learning more stuff about the political system that we never would have thought of. This stuff has been going on forever. But now we know about it because everybody's paying attention, and the internet allows us to share facts that may not be the truth, but can share facts. And the issue is, the reason why we're in an information war is because some people have these facts, other people have these facts. Both sides have facts, but they're completely conflicting facts. And no one's willing to say, well, these are true and those are true as well. Now let's figure out what the truth is. That requires critical thinking and also requires someone to not be on either side politically. So I am trying to help in that aim. But the problem is, even with someone like myself, when I come out and say some of the things that I say, I have no political affiliation, never received a dollar from any political party. I'm not MAGA. I'm not liberal. I'm not on any side politically. When I start talking about things, if I happen to be critical of one side, then the other side gets mad at me and they start attacking me. Well, you sound like you're MAGA. You sound like you're conservative. You sound like a Trump supporter. All I'm doing is just telling you what the Democrats did wrong. And if I do a whole lot of telling you what, if let's say Kamala had won, and I did a whole live on what the Republicans did wrong, then a bunch of Republicans will be in here telling me that I sound like a liberal. Again, I just told you. I gave you the example. When I did 2 videos before this election, I did one why Kamala was going to win. It was like 2 hours long, why Kamala was going to win. Then I did 2 hours on why Trump's going to win. On each one, people on the other side were coming in and attacking me because I happened to be saying something that they didn't like. This is the problem of society. That's not a political thing. That's us. That's all of us. We have that problem. Omnivore said, the truth backed with facts cannot be muddled with false statistics and opinion. Well, the truth means all the facts. So you really don't back the truth with facts. That's kind of an oxymoronic comment that you made there. What makes the truth is that all the facts are already there. And the issue with the truth, Omnivore, the issue for the truth in general is that it requires someone to take the time to actually ingest all of it. The truth is all the documents, all the information, and all the facts. That takes a long time to digest. Most people don't have the patience and the discipline to absorb the complete truth because it takes a whole lot of time. And what we used to have, some of you may remember this, we used to have an entire entity whose job was to digest all of the facts, contextualize it into truth, and then report it to us. They were called journalists. It was called journalism. And they usually worked somewhere within the mainstream media. These people no longer exist, because everyone has picked a side and they become more sensationalizers and bloggers and PR flacks more than they are journalists. The job of a journalist is to find the truth and tell us what it is. That's the job of a journalist. Find the truth and tell us what it is. No one's doing that anymore. Even the entities they used to work for, Washington Post, New York Times, LA Times, etc., they're no longer trying to find the truth. So now it has left all of us as citizens to go figure it out for ourselves. And what we do, because human beings, again, I just told you, we're lazy, we don't think, and we don't read, is we just pick facts that feel good, and then we just go telling everybody, well, I got the facts. No, you have some facts. You don't have the facts. That's the issue. So when journalism disappeared, this is when we start to get more into the info war. Calls you think you know me said, that's why a good debater will argue their points and disprove the other at once. Yes, exactly. That's what a good debater does, what a good trial attorney does as well. You need to understand the strongest points of the other side, not just your points. RS Floral Supply said, I love your content. Thanks for enlightening our community. Well, thank you. I appreciate you appreciating it. Michelle, good morning to you. #1 gifter badge. Heidi Flynn said, that's why it's hard to decipher what is the truth. Yes, It's very hard because the truth requires a ton of intake. You got to take in a lot of material to figure out the truth. And again, we used to have people who did this for a living. They would take in all the stuff, figure out the truth, and they would tell us. Again, it was called journalism. Anybody calling himself a journalist these days, most of them are just disrespecting the profession by calling themselves that because they're not journalists. Michelle, thank you for those hand hearts. Ms. Cunningham said, politicians have ridden this loophole for decades. Yes, they have. That's the reason why nobody leaves. The only way they leave is if they get voted out. No one leaves voluntarily. K. Renee said, there's a truth and the truth. Yes, exactly. Cause You Know Me said, there are so many straight out lies being spread right now. Well, that's the thing. The thing is, and I'm not even against somebody spreading a lie if they want to. I'm not. I'm not against it. I don't like the concepts of misinformation and disinformation, and I don't even like those concepts because I believe if someone is spreading something that's nonsense, it should be spread as far as possible because when they get exposed, they will lose all of their credibility. That's what I believe should happen. I don't believe in blocking someone's point just because someone has arbitrarily decided that it's not true. I don't like that. I'd rather let everybody say everything they want to say and let the marketplace tell us if it was true or not. Even if you really, really don't like it. I think everyone should have the ability to share whatever they want to share. That's the First Amendment. Glenn McCandless, thank you for sharing a live with more than 10 friends. 2L said, but sometimes some moves are just dumb. Everyone isn't right and wrong. Well, give me an example of a move that was just dumb. Dr. Black Sox, you said, give us a good current. I don't know what you're referring to. If you tell me what you're referring to, I'll give you an example. Omnivore said, we have to have pollutions not powered by greed. How? Take away money and access to taxpayers. Well, I don't know about powered by greed because powered by greed is a way of thinking, Omnivore. You can't tell someone how to think. So someone can be powered by greed, but you can still kick them out of the government after 5 years or 6 years or one term. So whether they're powered by greed or not, they still have to leave after 6 years. But I don't think we can alter the way people think. Take away money and access to taxpayers. Well, if the government's going to be a full-time job, you got to pay people. And I don't know what you mean by access to taxpayers. Kia said, what's your thing with Bernie? I'm using Bernie as an example because he's been on tour and posting these videos of how he's got these big crowds at his events. So I'm using him because that's what I've seen in the news. He's a current event because he's on tour right now with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And they keep showing everybody how big their crowds are. And I'm like, what are they campaigning for? I don't understand. Weren't they supposed to do this last year? Why are they doing it now? BJ said, what's going on with this segregation stuff I'm hearing? I don't know what you're talking about. 2L said, so another person asking about Bernie. Again, I'm using Bernie because he is in the news, okay? I'm using Bernie because he's in the news and he's been doing these campaigns or whatever you call these events with AOC. And they keep posting the videos. Look at all these people. They're going to go against oligarchs. Y'all haven't seen this? I keep seeing it. That's the reason why Bernie's fresh on my mind because he keeps putting himself out there asking for attention. You ask for attention. You call for attention. You can't hang up the phone. All right. So he called for attention. That's why he's getting it. That's why I'm talking about Bernie. So anybody wondering why? That's why. Heidi said they make little money, but geez, why are they worth so? Yes, it's one thing, Heidi, yes, that you get reported that they're worth things. One thing I will tell you is that you don't really know somebody's net worth by what gets reported on the internet. That I will tell you from firsthand knowledge. That there's all kinds of stuff out there. If you go to 10 different websites and ask about the net worth of one individual person, you're going to get 10 different answers. So which one is true? You don't really know. Even Forbes magazine doesn't really know somebody's net worth. That is all, it's really marketing is what it is. Entertainers and people like that, like known people, when it gets noted how much money they have, often it's marketing. And by the way, those of you who don't know the game, I've been I guess you can call an influencer. I get DMs and emails every day, whether to my personal email or to my assistant's email, of people telling me that they can get me listed in magazines like Forbes, Entrepreneur, INC, et cetera, and I can get myself on one of those lists, like the most influential people talking politics or people who are worth this much money, et cetera, in different subcategories. You can get yourself listed in those things, not because they went and did the research and they just decided or they found out when they put everybody in order, you made the list. That's not how it works. And if you think that's the way it works, you probably still believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. What they do is you pay for it. Long story short, let's just put it this way. If I wanted to get myself, if Forbes puts out an article and says the top 50 podcasters in the world who talk about current events, I could get myself on that list if I pay them $2,000. My name will be on the list. I'll be number 36 on the list. And people be reading it like, who? Dre Baldwin? Never heard of him before. And I get a whole bunch of people listening to my podcast just because I was on that list. All I had to do was give them $2,000. That's the way it works. In case any of you didn't know, that's the game. And your favorite entertainer who's number 5 on the Forbes list is because someone, they or their team, their agent, their marketing people, their PR people, paid money to the company that makes the list of the richest people, and they paid money to get them listed on the list. Now, why would you pay money to get yourself on a list that says how much money you have? You pay money because now you can put it on your album that I'm worth this much money, or you know that everybody else knows you're worth X amount of dollars, which causes people to look up to you and listen to you more, because in America, a capitalistic society, we tend to equate success with money. So the more money you're noted for having, the more respect you're going to get from a certain demographic, and the more people will be willing to listen to you just because they believe you have a certain amount of money, even if you don't actually have it. And again, Forbes magazine has no idea how much somebody is worth. They would have to actually be your accountant to know how much you're worth. They don't actually know. They estimate, and then they put the people on there who they want to frontline. Let's see. Omnivore said people sign up for politics for the ability to work with lobbyists and taxpayers' money. Okay. Yes, well, they do work with taxpayers' money. That's literally the job. So they're not necessarily wrong for doing it, but that's the job. Kate said, I had 2 and I voted for Trump. You had 2 what? Princess Living, good morning, said, I'm black and college educated and voted for Trump. Well, there you go. So Princess Living, you are a bold person, because a lot of black people do not want to admit that they voted for Trump. It's becoming more, accepted nowadays. But in 2016, people were very, very wary of saying anything about voting for Trump, especially black folks. Frankenstein said, more educated or more indoctrinated? Yes, that's the issue with education. It's something I should have said when I was talking about that. So education in America it's always been this way, but it's become more and more indoctrination more than it is education. Education, the actual root of the word, means to bring out from within. The word education, I believe, is either I think it's Latin. I think the root of the word education is Latin, and it means to bring out from within. I've done topics on these things in the past, by the way. You can find them on YouTube or listen to my show. Excuse me, I have a masterclass. Y'all call these podcasts. I have a podcast that comes out every day. It's called Work on Your Game. You can find it on YouTube. Well, it is on YouTube, but we're about to move to another channel. I would suggest you just find it on Apple or Spotify and just listen to the audio. You don't even need the video. Just listen to the audio. Ski Doo said both parties are the same term limit. Well, I do believe we need term limits. The issue is, how do we get them? Michelle said, why do they allow them to have access while in office they should not have access to any other monies? Yeah, well, the thing is, Michelle, who's going to create the rule to make sure they don't have access? They would have to make the rules for themselves. So it's like letting the foxes watch the chicken coop. That's the issue. That's the issue right there. What you said is a legitimate question, but how do we fix that? User said a degree doesn't automatically make you intelligent. I went to college with a bunch of morons. Yes, I have a degree too, but I don't tout that I have a degree because it's completely irrelevant to what I do as a professional. I 100% agree with you. But also a degree does matter depending on what industry you want to go in. You want to be a college professor, for example, you need a degree. You want to be an engineer, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you need degrees. You want to fly planes, you got to go to school. Joy Holland said, having a degree does not mean you have common sense. So, Joy, number 1, I agree with you. Number 2, common sense is a very flexible term. Most people call common sense the things that they know. So most people say common sense is anything that you know, and then something that you don't know, that's not common sense, but somebody else might think that is common sense. So what is common sense? A lot of people use that term, and common sense is a very relative term. So what I think is common sense may not be what you think is common sense. Judged by One said that is a lie. What did I say? Danny said colleges are liberal breeding grounds. All professors push that agenda. Well, liberal colleges, yes. There are some conservative, Christian-based colleges out there, but there are many more that are more leaning towards liberal. You are correct. And Danny Humes is one of the reasons why I don't get invited to speak at colleges. I get people telling me all the time, your message will be great for people who are of college age, and I agree. The issue is they won't bring me to a college to speak because I get on TikTok and say stuff like what I'm saying right here today. Cold Shoulder said, then you'll pay 50% of what you earn in taxes. That's not fair. What are you referring to? Ski-Doo said, you believe either side of the aisle cares about this country, you are solely mistaken. I believe there are people who do care about the country. The issue is when you get into politics, you may join or throw your hat in the ring because you actually want to help people. Then when you get in there, you realize it doesn't go as smoothly as you thought it would when it comes to you trying to get your agenda completed. trying to get your stuff done is not as easy as it seems from the outside looking in. So, for example, sometimes when I'm talking to somebody, will say, well, Dre, you'd be good in politics. And I think if I got in politics and I start trying to do the stuff that I'm talking about, it would sound good before I actually get in. But then when I get on the inside and I see all the layers of things and people that I have to go through in order to get anything done, that's when I would realize, okay, this is the reason why nothing changes in politics, because it's so many layers of bureaucracy. That's what Elon is trying to attack. And the people who are in those layers are trying to stop him from doing it. That's the issue. So I would not get in politics because I understand, even from not being on the inside, that there's so many layers of bureaucracy. I don't like dealing with bureaucracy in my own business. When I do a deal with another company and they're like, all right, now we agree on a deal, and then I got to send them the paperwork. Then they got to send it to their finance team, and they got to get it approved by the CEO. And then there's all these people, all these layers of people. I don't like working with 2 layers of people, let alone 50. You work in the government, you're dealing with 50 layers of people, and they all have a say. And if you can't get all of them on the same page as you can't get anything done. That's the reason why Barack Obama aged like 30 years in 8 years. You see what he looked like when he came in and what he looked like when he left? That's because he was trying to get things done, and he couldn't do it. And so I am very good on that. And again, I don't like layers of bureaucracy, even when I'm dealing with a company and I go to them and they say, all right, let's do this. And then we tell them what they got to do. And then they're like, well, I got to go to my person and my person got to come back to me. And I already don't want to do it. I don't like layers of people. Geeks are us. Said, ever work with really smart people? Ever have a conversation with those people? Well, who do you consider really smart? Again, smart is a relative and subjective term. Princess said, it'll be less emotional and more logical, but most liberals lack logic. Well, a lot of conservatives think that, but Princess Living, just to be fair, a lot of liberals think conservatives lack logic. So, Yvonne said, intelligence is not the barometer, racism is. Well, Yvonne, again, back to what I just said to Princess Living, same frame. There's a lot of people who you might look at and say they're racist, but then they will look at you and say you're racist. So who's the racist? Is it both of you? Vicky Josie said, love your content. Thank you. Ms. Cunningham said, common sense equals street smarts that we can see through the BS. Well, Mrs. Cunningham, street smarts. What street? What street you come from? I think the streets you come from, the streets I come from are not the same. So your common sense will be different from mine. So again, common sense is a very relative and subjective term. Kia said, that's a crazy logic. What are you referring to? Kay said, it matters what type of degree you got. Yes, it does. And what kind of career you want to get. Because some people get a degree and then they don't even do it. So some people go to law, pre-law, and they don't become a lawyer. So it depends on what degree you got and then what you do with it, if anything. I have a degree that I don't, quote unquote, use my degree, even though I have one. So Adam said, majority higher education got indoctrinated. Well, if you work in higher education, you pretty much have to have a degree to get a job. So, and depending on where you work, yes, there's certain things you got to go along with. Klopp, thank you for the rose. Shade Sade said, I don't think even racist people know how to break the spell of racism. Okay, well, how many people do you know who would actually admit to being racist? This is the thing about racism, folks, is that most of the time racism is sought out and accused. But how many people actually say, I am a racist? How many of you know someone who actually says, I am a racist? Nobody. But everybody's accusing everybody else of being a racist. So who's the racist? Just who? Because you say they're a racist? I don't hear anybody actually saying, I am a racist. Very rarely do I hear that. But I hear a lot of people accusing people of being racist. So again, another subjective term that it really doesn't mean much because people are throwing it around so much these days. It's not that racism doesn't exist, but again, racism is a way of thinking. It's not a behavior by definition. Rapolo Konpata said, I am highly educated, speak several languages, and I am for Trump. Okay, great. Great. Omnivore said Harris didn't have a policy. It was just a plan to slander Trump and it backfired. Well, she claimed she had some policies. The thing is with elections that you don't know if they're actually going to do it. That's the problem. Doc Rogers said, you don't have to go to college to be intelligent and have knowledge. I 100% agree. That is correct. Mrs. Voice of Reason, good morning. Psalms and Coffee said, I have 2 master's degrees and a certificate of master's. I am a female and converted from Democrat to Republican. All right, great. 2 master's degrees. What are your master's in? Psalms and Coffee. What'd you get your master's degrees in? It sounds like a lot of time in school. Not for me, but what do you get your degrees in? What do you do for a living now? Since you told us that. Just Kia said, that's your job. I don't know what you're referring to. FL Scuba Wayne said, no, school students don't have a deeply held incorrect belief. I'm not quite sure what that means. Ski Doo said Dana White. Well, maybe. He's not a politician, but he's also not Trump. issue with Trump being Trump is that anyone who comes after him is going to be a letdown. Gisley said, Trump is trash. He proves how ignorant he and his supporters are every day. All right, you're entitled to that opinion. Kay said, pretty sure it's going to be Vance. I don't know if you say he's a career politician or not. Yes, so when I looked him up, he is not a career politician, but he's also very young. And as long as we've known him for politics. So I should better explain what I mean by career politician. It's a person who, as long as we've known their name, we knew him in politics. So Kamala, AOC is relatively young, but her career, everything we've known her for is politics. JD Vance, I never heard of him except when he was in politics. So that's what I mean when I say career politician. So just to better define what I mean by that term. Will say he's grooming his son for the job. Yeah, I've heard some people float that Don Jr. might try to run. Again, no matter who you name, none of them is Donald Trump. That's the issue. Irene said it could be time for an independent to shine. Yeah, good luck, Irene. Good luck them winning an election in a two-party system. Lisa says sometimes very smart people have no common sense, and that is what Trump stands for. Okay. Well, I agree with the first sentence. That's what Trump stands for. I don't know about that. Princess Living said, I hope we don't ever have a Democrat back in office. Know what? I would challenge you on that, Princess Living. The reason why I would challenge you on that is because absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if either political party gets into a position where they can't lose and they always win, then you're going to get corruption that eventually you won't be fond of. So even if you are a Republican, you should not hope that the Democrats never get back in power, because if the Republicans control things forever, they're eventually going to get corrupt too. What keeps both sides honest, quote unquote honest, neither one of them is honest, but keeps them somewhat honest, is the fact that they can lose to the other side. So we need at least two parties that can win. But if one side can't win at all, then we get real problems. And none of you want that. I don't care who you like politically. Matt said he's also a great orator. I guess you're talking about Obama. If you're talking about Obama, yes, he was. Everyone who wins is a great orator. Every winner has been a great orator. George W., Obama, Trump, even Biden when he was cogent. Michelle said Democrats will win in 2028. If I had to bet right now, it depends on who's running. I would say it depends on who's running, but they're going to have a great chance because it's the bounce back. So the Republicans are in charge now, and the bounce back is going to be the Democrats want to be in charge. Adam says, I feel like Trump knows that, so he had to dismantle the bureaucracy in Washington. Well, he tried the first time. This time he came with a better team. He came with a better team this time. That's why. Destiny said, that is not the point. I feel like both sides are waiting to get people back uninterested. Why would they want to do that, Destiny? Okay, so y'all gave me some facts on JD. Yes, which I read, but this is how far back I am in the comments. So I'm just now getting to those. Geeks R Us said he's filthy rich. How do you define filthy rich? Angelina says, I thought you were one too funny. You thought I was a Republican? I'm not a Republican. I believe I have a lot of conservative leanings and conservative viewpoints, but I don't consider myself a political conservative. And I got some liberal viewpoints too. And I remember some guy, it was like 2019, I'm talking to this guy, maybe 2020. He's a basketball player, and we were talking business, and he said, Dre, I appreciate the fact that you're willing to talk about your conservative views publicly, because a lot of people don't want to. And I never heard anybody say that my views were conservative before that. This is like 5 years ago. But I don't consider myself, again, I just try to look at things logically and objectively. And if people see that as conservative, I say, okay, what does it say about the liberals? If being logical and objective makes me appear conservative, then that means the liberals have a problem. Princess said JD has a movie based on his life. Yeah, the Hillbilly Elegy. Elegy, is that how you spell it? Elegy? Yes, I know about that. But, I mean, that's not a career. I'm saying that's something he did. I'm talking about what was he spending his time doing, like on a day-to-day thing. Kate says he has to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Well, that generally tends to be the political rights angle. And I am a strong supporter of that angle. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. No excuses. I don't want any handouts. Just put me on the field and let me play. Let me play the hand that I've been dealt. And that tends to be a conservative viewpoint. And many on the liberal side tend to not like that. Ski Dude said, what qualifies you to speak with such certainty? The fact that I turned on the camera and started talking. And I'm not trying to be facetious when I answer your question, Ski Dude 777, but that literally is the answer. I have an episode of my podcast where I talked about that. How to get qualified in life. The number one way to get qualified in life is to decide that you're qualified. That's it. Number one way to be qualified to speak on a subject with confidence and authority is to turn on the microphone and start talking. And as you keep doing it, people are going to see you, and they're going to perceive you the way that you are presenting yourself. So you present yourself as someone who knows what they're talking about. People are going to start thinking that you know what you're talking about. You could be saying a whole bunch of nonsense, and people will accept it just because of the way you say it. Kate said, people like an underdog, and Vance has been an underdog. That's a good point. And he would probably use that really strongly in the next election. The issue is the Democratic candidate might do the same thing. I mean, look at Joe Biden. Wasn't his whole thing Scranton Joe, right? His whole thing was, I'm Joe Biden from Scranton, PA. So let me see what we got over on Instagram real quick. Scary Cats, easy on the capital, all caps. Is the Electoral College, I don't know what you're talking about. A return to the 1930s, with modern society mirror the past society. Can America heal by segregated society? Who is a black leader? Scary Cats is asking a bunch of questions that have nothing to do with the topic at hand. Shara Stevenson is good morning from Atlanta. Keep up the critical thinking coming. Appreciate you, Shara. Good to see you here. Scary Cats, I am seeing your comments, but you're leaving a bunch of comments that have nothing to do with what I'm talking about, so these are not getting addressed. All right, so Klopp says his debate skills are amazing, though. Who are you talking about, JD? Yes, he is a very good debater. Also is, as is Vivek Ramaswamy. As is even Ron DeSantis. But Ron DeSantis did some things in the last month or so that I'm not a fan of. I like DeSantis, but some of the things he did in the last month I don't like, and he exposed himself. So he has an issue right now. Aliasen, I can't read your name there, said, the energy will be top notch because he is the American dream. He came from nothing. Who are you talking about? You talking about JD? Doc said, all politicians are a secure party creditor. This is what the majority of people don't know. What does that mean, Doc Rogers? You would need to explain that. I don't know what that means. Actually, let me ask ChatGPT. Maybe they can fill me in, Doc, because I know you don't have enough space to maybe write it. Someone told me that all politicians are a secured party creditor. What does that mean? Question mark. So ChatGPT should know, Doc. Let's see. So ChatGPT says, a secure party creditor is a person or entity that holds a legal claim over another party's assets as collateral for a debt. This status is typically associated with financial transactions. That part I understand, such as loans, has a right to seize assets if you default. Yes, I get that. If someone is claiming that all politicians are secure party creditors, so this is you, Doc Rogers, they may be referring to a sovereign citizen style theory that suggests politicians can claim their rights or assets through complex legal maneuvers revolving the UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. These theories are based on, now this is what ChatGPT says, Doc Rogers, these theories are often based on misunderstandings of financial and legal systems. In reality, being a politician does not make you a creditor. And a secure party creditor is a financial and legal designation, not a political one. Some individuals or corporations file UCC financing statements to declare themselves as secure party creditors, but this is a business or legal move, not something inherent to holding political office. If someone told you this, Doc Rogers, they might be referencing a conspiracy theory or a fringe legal argument rather than an established fact. Do you have more context on where you heard it? Yes, comma, I heard it on TikTok. So, I just told ChatGPT that I heard it on TikTok. They said that makes sense. Social media is full of misinformation when it comes to finance, law, and politics. The idea that all politicians are secure party creditors likely coming from a sovereign citizen or free man on the land, conspiracy theories. These groups believe they can bypass laws, debts, and taxes by filing UCC forms and making legal claims that have no real. So, Doc, I'm not going to say that what you're saying is quote unquote misinformation. I already established that. I don't even like that term. I think what you're saying is something that most people have not considered that angle. And I respect and understand the angle that you're coming from, even though it's not something that is quote unquote an accepted and established fact, does not mean that it's not true. So, Doc, I appreciate you saying that. And I also appreciate ChatGPT for filling me in on what exactly it means. And this is the reason why we're in the information war. What Doc Rogers presented here, I had never thought of. And even ChatGPT doesn't quite agree with it. But again, that does not mean that it's not true. Just because something cannot be quote unquote verified with established facts. Again, that term is a misnomer in and of itself. You said something that doesn't go with the established facts does not mean that it's not true. It just means the established facts don't agree with it. That doesn't mean it's not true. And this is the reason why our schools, again, when we talk about indoctrination, this is the exact point that I'm talking about. Kate said, you're kind of negating all the things that he overcame to become vice president, and it's a lot. Well, the thing, Kate, he got appointed as vice president. So what did he have to overcome? That's like saying, what did Kamala overcome to become vice president? You don't really have to overcome anything. You just got to get chosen. So now if he wins an election, that's a different story, Kate. He hasn't won an election. To become vice president, you don't have to overcome anything. You just got to get chosen by the person who has to win an election. Heidi said, can you think of someone like Trump? No. Ski Doo said, you're essentially calling Trump the GOAT. No, I'm not. Essentially? Well, here's the thing, Ski Doo and everybody else who's in here. You don't need to rephrase anything that I say from what I actually said. I think I'm pretty good at putting words together. So I don't need anyone to paraphrase my thoughts in a way that's different from what I said, because I'll always tell you exactly how I want it said. And it'll usually be better than any way that you could rephrase it. H. Willie said, disagree. JD is a better speaker. I voted for Trump because of JD Vance. All right, that's fine, but there are 330 million voters, H. Willie. And he's a good speaker, but being a good speaker alone is not enough, because there are a lot of good speakers. Vivek Ramaswamy is a good speaker. All right, why didn't he beat Trump? He might be even a better speaker than Trump, as is Ron DeSantis. The thing is, you got to be able to galvanize people and get them excited. Now, JD has the inside track because he's the vice president. We'll see what he does. But is he going to galvanize people as well as Trump? I would suggest, as it stands now, I say no. And Trump is a different animal. Doesn't mean JD can't win. It depends on who he's going against. If Kamala comes up and it's Kamala against JD, I'll probably go with JD, who I think would win, just to be clear what I'm saying. Let's see. Michelle said George W. wasn't Reagan, but he won after... Oh, George H.W., first Bush. But he won after Reagan's term ended. Okay, I don't know enough about... My political memory goes back to around Clinton. I remember George H. Bush, but it goes to around the Clinton time. Because when I first started kind of realizing what was happening, I didn't really pay attention until Trump. All right, so we got a few more. Where are we? La Heck 60 says, I love your tie. Thank you. Me too. Let me see. I'm trying to see where I'm at comments-wise. I'm trying to find some of you. Those of you who are leaving comments, I haven't read them yet, is because I'm scrolling from the very top, and there's a lot of... I got to get through all these comments to get to these things. So let's see. Where was I? There's a lot of comments in here. I'm not going to be able to get to all these comments, folks. So I'm not ignoring any of you who's leaving comments. I just can't read them all. It's too many. Let me see. I'm trying to get to where I can at least go in order. So I'm just trying to give everybody a fair shake here, but damn, it's too many comments in here. It's actually a good thing there's a lot of comments, because y'all are listening and engaging. All right, I had to just jump here because I got to jump through some other comments. All right, I'm going to just pick up where I'm at. And so I'm sorry if I missed your comment. Maybe leave it again. I might get to it. I might not. But again, it's not personal if I don't read your comment. Figment of Imagination said, bro, you really brainwashed, huh? Well, you got to come with something better than that. If you disagree with something that I say, you are free to do so. And if you could disagree with me, just tell me what the disagreement is. But the ad hominem or your brainwash, like, come on. What grade are we in? Frankenstein said the connection between government and NGOs needs to be severed. Well, people are trying. Elon's trying. Chess Seek said, what would happen to have to set term limits? Well, first thing, Congress could vote for it. They're not going to, because they're the ones who would be getting ousted. What would happen is the states, each state would have to have a vote. I looked this up on GPT months ago, but let me look it up again, and I'll explain it. What would have to happen for there to be term limits implemented in Congress? And I explained this before, but I don't remember the whole thing. So, one is the Constitution will have to be amended, and states cannot impose their own limits on federal lawmakers. So, a congressional proposal. So basically, 2/3 of Congress would have to propose an amendment to the Constitution, which would limit them having their own jobs. Again, that's the reason why I don't think this is going to happen. And then 38 out of 50 states would have to approve it. I think the state level will be easier, but to get Congress to go with this, I don't think so. Next will have to be a constitutional convention. This is the way it would actually happen. Okay, the Constitutional Convention. 2/3 of the states, that means 34 of the 50 American states, would have to call for a convention to propose an amendment. And then that amendment will still have to be approved by 38 states. The challenge is, this has never happened in the history of the United States of America. So that's the way it could best happen to something that's never happened in history. And 34 states would have to call for it, which means we probably had to get the governors involved of every individual state. So how likely do you think this is to occur? And the last one is Congress voluntarily passes a law to kick themselves out of their own jobs. Is that going to happen? No. So again, incumbents will have to vote themselves out of power. Not happening. Public support is high. It says, according to ChatGPT, 80% of the American public is in favor of term limits. 80%. The problem is the people who would have to implement the term limits are the very people we're trying to kick out. So y'all do with that what you wish. BZSLJ, good morning. Vitality Judo said, how can we find out who these unknown people are that are making decisions? Well, Donald Trump told you he was going to do it. Remember, drain the swamp? That was the whole point. He was going to drain the swamp so you could see all the alligators. The problem is when you try to drain the swamp, the alligators are not going to sit there and let you do it. That's the issue. That's the reason why in 2016, his first term, Trump was unable to drain the swamp. This time he came back and he got his team now. Now he has Cash, he got Bondi, he got Hegseth, he got Elon, he got RFK, he got, what's the other chick's name? Tulsi. He brought all the people in with him this time because he realized what he did the first time wasn't going to work. So he's trying to drain the swamp right now. And you see what happens. What Elon is doing is the first step in draining the swamp. And you see all the alligators trying to eat him alive because he's trying to drain their swamp. That's how you find out. Vitality Judo. Great question. And again, they're not going to sit there and just let you do it. Again, if you have power and nobody knows who you are, you're going to sit there and let somebody expose you? Probably not. You're going to fight back. So that's what they're doing. Bradley said Elon's security clearance comes from other administrations. Yes, and it's not going to get revoked because Trump is in charge. Now, if a Democrat comes into power in 2028, Elon's going to be the first one whose security clearance gets revoked. That's happening. Tina Meeks said, racist, LOL, ain't worth my time. You don't even understand. I'm married to a black man, LOL. Well, that's what I said. Racist. Who's racist? I mean, it's hard. Everybody accuses other people of being racist, but nobody admits to being racist. So that's the problem with the term. It's been overused to the point that it's lost its value, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, the NGOs thing, yes. Skyball said, can you explain why Elon didn't have to be appointed like other officials in this administration? Well, he was appointed. He was appointed by the president, by Donald Trump. He didn't have to be voted in. Just like all those people whose names I just said. Hegseth, RFK, Tulsi, Bondi, Cash. None of them got voted in. They got appointed by Trump. And then there had to be they had to go through the hearings, and then Congress had to okay it. The thing is, the Republicans control Congress, so there wasn't really an issue for the most part. There were some close calls, but it wasn't really an issue. Elon didn't even have to go through that because he wasn't an official cabinet member the way that it is laid out. But Trump can appoint a whole bunch of people to do stuff that, again, you only have to know their names. We just happen to know who Elon is, so he's getting all this attention. But there are other people working in the government right now that Trump said, this person's going to work for me, and that's it. It's like the press secretary. The press secretary didn't get elected. They don't have to be approved of. The president says, this is who I want, and they're in. That's it. This is how it goes. And the reason why it goes like that is because we voted for Trump. That's it. He gets to do, there are a lot of things he gets to do just because he's the president. It does not have to be okayed by anybody. I mean, that's what power is you do what you want to do. He can't do everything he wants to do, but there's a lot of things he wants to do. He can just do it. Duck Going Buck said, thoughts about proposing giving Trump a third term? Well, everybody's talking about that. Do I think it's going to happen? No. Highway Trucking said, do I think Jasmine Crockett is I gotta be careful with that word. And the answer is no, I don't. I don't generally agree with her approach, but do I think she's a T word? No. Amber Ira said, can I expand on what? Judge said, we, the people, need to dismantle the government, rebuild it. Well, the thing is, that would require anarchy. Judged by one, I understand your frame, but that would require anarchy in America for us to tear down the government and start over. So if you're ready for anarchy, then again, look around at other countries when the people revolted. Or if you're ready for that, because a lot of people are going to lose their heads in that process. And I mean literally lose their heads. And I'm talking citizens, not just the government. So if you're ready for that, any of you who's not a Second Amendment abider or you can't physically fight, you don't want anarchy. So as long as you are okay with one of those two things, anarchy, okay. But a lot of people are going to lose their lives in the process. Kingsley Jones said, Black MAGA don't give a damn about their kids' future. They all in for the money. What does that even mean, Kingsley? Just Kia said, there's plenty of contractors that they can go to. That is a conflict of interest. No, not necessarily. All contractors are not created equally, Just Kia. Would you agree? If I want to hire a personal trainer, there's a million personal trainers in Miami. Doesn't mean I could just hire any one of them because they ain't all the same. Some are better than others. And I think Elon, by his financial outcomes, I think we can agree that some of the things he does business-wise are better than what some of his competitors do. Would you agree? Because when you're an entrepreneur, the marketplace responds to you with money. And he's made the money that he's made because he's created great products. We can't act like that's not a thing. He's not just the same as anybody else. And we can't act like that he is. Even if you don't like Trump or Elon. We can't just discredit him. It's like if you don't like LeBron James, you can't discredit that he's one of the greatest players of all time. Just Shanti says, speaking on Elon, have we seen the effects of his cuts on countries such as Argentina? I don't. You said we. I don't know who we is. Just Shanti. I don't pay attention to other countries such as Argentina, so I have not. But maybe you have. Kate said facts can be twisted. That is correct. We'll give this about 10 more minutes, folks. Then we'll wrap up. Whatever comments I get to. If I didn't get to your comment, again, not personal. Let's see. Doc says, important to understand the money politicians come from. Oh, yeah, I read that. I got what you said there, Doc. The Biker Poet said, can you make this a live video, to share? Yes, it's going to be on YouTube. The Biker Poet, this video will be on my YouTube channel. The link to my YouTube is in my profile on TikTok. And we're launching, I've actually had this channel for a while, but I haven't put content on it. So this channel, we're going to be putting all our content from here moving forward. So yes, it'll be on there. And thank you for the compliment. Deborah Sherman said he tried to eliminate a contract with Verizon and replace it with his Starlink. Again, Deborah, is Starlink better than Verizon? If it is, then that doesn't make him wrong. Just because it happens to be his company doesn't mean he's wrong. It's kind of like if you're dating a guy and another guy comes along and he is better than the guy you're currently dating, just because he's trying to replace your guy doesn't mean he's wrong. He has a conflict of interest. Yes, is a conflict of interest because he's trying to take you from your current guy? Yes, but does that mean he's wrong? Not necessarily. So it depends. It depends on, is Starlink better than Verizon? If it is, then so what? That he's in charge. If he wasn't in charge and the government tried to replace Verizon with Starlink, would there be a problem? No. So, again, Grand Slam Apparel said, when would you run? Run what? I'm going to run outside early tomorrow morning, about 4 a.m., be outside running. That kind of running. You're talking about running for a political office as it currently stands, Grand Slam? Never. Kate said, I don't think anybody knew what NGOs were before. Well, people who follow the government know. I didn't follow the government until he came around. Kingsley Jones said, putting on a suit and tie doesn't make you look different from any other black. What's the purpose of that comment? There's a whole bunch of black people who wear suits and ties, Kingsley. So your comment is completely misses. I think the point you're trying to make is saying that maybe you disagree with something that I said, and so you're using ad hominem. So you're trying to attack me personally rather than attacking what I actually said, which is fine. You're not the first person to try it, but it doesn't work around here because I'm good at pointing out logical fallacies. So if you got something with some substance, try again. Heather says, what Trump and Musk are doing is great, bringing crimes to light. Well, they're trying. I will say that. Duck Going Buck said, you haven't heard about Joe Biden's auto pen? No, I have not. I have not heard about that. So much going on in politics. There's a lot of things we don't all know everything. I don't follow it that close. I follow enough that I can talk about it like I'm talking about it here. I'm not an expert on politics. It's too many things for me to have to study to be an expert. I do have a full-time business that is not this. Lightning Strike says, not a fact if it's not true. Let me think about that. It's not a fact if it's not true. Well, it depends. Actually, it depends on what's the basis for truth. So if I say it's hot outside, is that true? If it's hot to me, and you go outside and say, well, no, it's not hot. It's actually kind of cool. Aren't both of us telling a truth as we see it? Now, I'm not a fan of my truth, his truth, her truth, but it depends on how you define the word true. And again, this is the reason why we're in the information war. We're just that very point of what you just said. Mercedes said alternative facts. Yes, and alternative facts could be things you like or things you don't like. Life-changing training said, thank you for speaking up. We need a government with no sides. Yes, it's not going to happen. We need one, but we're not going to get one. Just Kia says, the problem with what he's actually doing, cuts made to Section 8, cut vouchers for foster youth. Well, just Kia, my question is, what's the counterfact? What's the counterfact to that? So you're giving the facts that make him look bad. Now, if someone was supporting Elon or Elon was sitting here right now and you said what you just said, what would he say in response? And what I would challenge you to go find out, just Kia, is what his actual answer would be, because I guarantee you there's an answer. So what you're saying is the part that makes him look bad, but it's only one side of the story. And every story has multiple sides. So I need to know the other side of that story. Because what you said, I've heard other people say it, but you're only talking about one side of it. What's the rest of it? That's what I want to hear. Skyball said, we all need to see clearly what's happening on both sides. Appreciate this live. Well, thank you. Michelle said they can hate Trump all you want. He'll be president till January 20th, 2029. That is, at least as it currently stands, a fact. Heidi said, where can I find those videos? YouTube. All my video archive can be found on YouTube. Just look up my name. My name is Dre Baldwin. I have an old YouTube channel, and now we're launching this new YouTube channel. So just look my name up, and you'll find my stuff. Go to the link in my profile, Heidi. My YouTube link is in there. Dom Dada says, stop speaking logically. People align themselves with their bias and not their logic. Well, that's human nature, Dom. Nothing we can do about it. Nothing we can do about it. Kate said, pretty much only a computer could do that. Could do what? The problem today is no one does the research. They believe the shit they see on social media. Valid block. Well, research takes time and effort. So, again, human nature. We have to respect human nature. Jenna Neal said, a society problem. People lose steam in an argument. They attack people. Well, again, that's always been a human thing, Jenna. Before you and I were alive, that people still did the same thing. The thing is, these days, we just have more material to argue with because we all have access to everything through these little devices. Mario said that explains all of Trump's lying. Well, every politician lies. Trump just gets more attention. But all politicians lie about the same amount. Some of them just make their lies sound smooth so it doesn't seem like they're lying. Trump doesn't care. He might tell you a lie, but he just says it in such a blusterful way that you get offended by it. But Obama will lie to you with a smile on his face. They're both doing the same thing. Danielle says, so true about journalism. Everyone's algorithms fuel the bias as well. That's true. Princess said, block the shade room. What does that mean? I heard the shade room, but what about them? Why are you telling me to block them? Corey said, how do you get into this line of thinking? It's an interesting question. How did I get into this line of thinking? I don't know. I was never on a different line of thinking. I just try to look at things very logically and as objectively as possible. I'm human, so nobody's completely objective. But I just try to be as objective as possible, and I try to look at things from a logical basis and not a emotional basis. That's just my wiring as a person. And then I just got good at articulating through 50,000 hours of speaking. That's how I'm able to explain it. They should put term limits on the ballot for a decision. Great idea, Heidi, but I think that would somehow, some way had to get approved by Congress, and they're not going to approve firing themselves. Let's see. All right, so that guy said the problem with media today is that they lose impartiality when they support a candidate. Yeah, well, since Trump came along, they all jumped on their side. That was the issue. Are they just going around trying to inform people? Is it campaigning they're doing? Well, that's kind of the same thing. Skyboss, isn't it? Informing people and campaigning is the same thing. Campaigning is just getting people interested in what you have to say. And hopefully something that you say is informing people. You can inform people of your opinion. So it's the same thing. Ocarina of Crime said Bernie is right. Right about what? Coin said Bernie made millions off congressional advertising. Okay, if you say so. I'm not affirming any of this stuff. Charles said, I have 3 bills that will work to solve all these problems. All right, you going to get them passed through Congress? Please do. Christine said, aren't they stepping on the line of encouraging violence? Well, when it comes to Trump, there's no line, as we can see. I don't think the line matters when it comes to Trump. Charles, are you working in the government, or how are you going to get these things passed? These things you're throwing out there. Vershaw said, are you saying that it's just like a pay-to-play type of situation? No, I'm not saying that, because if I was, I would have said it. So, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you get access. When you're in politics, you have access. You don't do it just for the line item salary that you make for being in politics. You do it for the access to everything else you can get and that you can leverage in different ways. I don't work in politics, so I can't tell you the details of it, but I think we all generally agree that people in politics have access to ways of making money outside of their salaries. That I think we all can agree. Glenn Huff said, God bless for your ongoing service. Thank you. Frankenstein, career politicians are the epitome of grifting. I believe a lot of people believe that, and I can understand the frame. Be careful with that word grifting, though, because everybody uses that now when they see something they don't like. People accuse me of grifting every day on social media. You're grifting. You're MAGA grift. I get accused of being a grifting for MAGA. If I'm grifting for MAGA, please tell me where they sent the money, because I didn't get it. Lumity says, since everyone hates Trump, Where's the court martial? Why isn't he behind bars, everybody, already? Well, they tried. Were you alive in 2024? You didn't see what happened? Let's see. Cindy said Obama divided this country. I don't think any politician divided the country. I think the people divided themselves because of their disagreements over who was in charge. But so, no, I would not say Obama divided the country. I wouldn't say Trump divided the country. I'd say people's reactions to them divided the country. So we got to blame ourselves. It's not the politician that does it. It's the people who do it. As Michelle, what you said, people are already looking for a reason to divide. Obama just gave them a reason, but we can't blame it on him. All right, a couple more questions. My timer just went off. Cindy said Trump is what this country needs. Well, we got him. Let's see what happens. Karina said Don Jr. wouldn't be a smart move. Well, Don Jr. got to build his he got to get his name out there. Right now, he's been pretty quiet, so we'll see. Lee Hero said independent will never win. Not with our current system. No, they would not. A couple more comments. I'm hungry. I need to eat. I need to eat lunch. All right, a few more comments, and then we are wrapping this up, folks. Let me see. Brian said, I don't think term limits help anything. Well, I talked about that in a little bit more detail. I don't know if you were here earlier, but I can't go over it again. 80% of people want term limits. Sound like the government is not working for the people. Heidi, that is correct. And the government is not working for the people. So anybody listening to this, not just you, Heidi, but anybody listening to this thinks the government works for the people, I don't think anybody thinks that. That's the reason why we want term limits. I think most Americans, no matter what side you're on politically, we all agree the government is not working for us. They're helping themselves. We don't trust them. And we want them to have term limits so they can't be there for their entire lives. I think everyone agrees on that, regardless of your political leaning. The thing is, it can't change because they're the ones who had to vote to kick themselves out. And they ain't doing it. Klopp said, what's for lunch? Well, I have a meal delivery service, so whatever they put in there. I just heat it up and eat it. I don't even think about it. Generally, I don't constantly think about what I'm eating. I just eat it. Butterfly Howard, thank you. I'm Roku, said, like, most decisions, politics should be like expecting the best outcome for the majority. Yeah. Oliver said, do you think Trump going for a third term? No, he's not going for a third term. After 2028, he's done. User said, people don't want the responsibility of doing it themselves. Yeah, so I just told you, people don't think, they don't read, and they're lazy. These are 3 truths you should all understand and accept about human beings. They don't think, they don't read, and they're lazy. So if you're looking for people who think, read, and want to actually do work, you're talking to 2% of the population. And if you want to reach the masses of people, you cannot challenge them to think because that's too much work. If you want to win a presidential election, you have to dumb down your language to where the average person who doesn't want to think can understand what you're saying. All that said, everybody, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. So if you like this one, come back tomorrow. If you hated this one, come back tomorrow. If you are indifferent about this and you're not quite sure and you need a little bit more information before you decide about me, come back tomorrow. You want to see the replays and things I've done in the past or things I will be doing in the future, you can go to my YouTube channel. The link is in my profile on TikTok. My Instagram. Make sure you follow me on Instagram. All y'all watching this, they say on TikTok there's 102 people in here right now. I should have 102 new followers on Instagram. Follow my Instagram at DreBaldwin. And the reason you need to follow me on these other platforms is because just in case I get kicked off of TikTok, I get banned. TikTok has already warned me I'm 1 strike away from getting banned. Like, they're going to actually delete my account if I get 1 more strike. So follow me on these other platforms. So just in case anything happens to my TikTok, and it's not just from my live stream, it's from my actual posts. They told me I might get banned. Make sure you follow me in another place. So if something happens here, you can follow me in another place. Also, get on my email list by going to workonmygame.com. Workonmygame.com. TikTok doesn't give you a lot of options for giving people links. So I can only tell you these things. I can't. Instagram is in my profile. YouTube's in my profile. I go live 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. If I'm not live, I will have a backup account on TikTok. So I will just create another account. But y'all will have to find me if you're not already following me. And that's that. Everybody have a great Monday. I will see you all tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. Thank you, everyone, for the engagement and the commentary. There's so much that I couldn't even read everybody's comments. So if I missed your comments here today, I'm kind of sorry, but I'm not. It was just so many comments. I'm not sorry because I didn't do it on purpose to miss your comment. I just can only read but so many before the time runs out. I will see y'all tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern. The topic tomorrow, TBD, to be determined. Everybody have a great day. We're out of here. Work on your game. Good morning over there, the spiritual black man. Good morning.